Hey friends, before we dive into tonight's story, did you know that nearly 80% of viewers aren't subscribed? If you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button. It really helps keep these long stories coming. Also, for even more police horror stories, check out my new channel. The link's in the description and pinned comment. I'd love it if you stop by and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. What time is it where you are and which city are you listening from tonight? Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. I'm on the road again, my headlights carving a narrow tunnel through the night. Gravel chirps under the tires as I slow to 20 miles per hour. The air smells of damp pine and rotting leaves. March in Central Oregon has that stubborn chill. I pull off onto the shoulder, the cruiser's lights bouncing off a rutted driveway leading to a rundown barn. Midnight, and I've already answered 3 calls. A false alarm at the feed mill, a stray cow blocking Highway 26, a report of lights in the old Miller farmhouse. All nothing, routine, but my gut's on edge tonight. I can't shake the feeling the county's shadows are shifting. My name's Deputy Harris. Been on this beat 15 years, and I know what ordinary scares feel like. Kids setting off fireworks in the dark, drunks stumbling into traffic. But tonight, I'm chasing something different. There's a tension coiled in the air, a flicker in my radio static like a heartbeat under silence. I step out, the night swallowing me up. My boots crack against rough gravel. I swing my flashlight up and down the barn's facade. Peeling paint, warped boards, a half-broken window with shards that catch the beam. Not an eerie sight by itself. Runs down Barnes, Lakewood County. But I've been called here for a missing person. A local hunter said he saw someone stumbling out of this barn an hour ago, shouting for help, then disappear into the trees. I nod to the radio. Harris to dispatch, checking the barn on Old Mill Road. Stand by. My voice sounds hollow in my own ears. No response except a click and static. Standard issue Miller Model Wii radio, vintage but reliable. Though lately it's been glitching, cutting in and out. I step forward and the flashlight flickers. I curse softly, thumb dancing on the side to kick it back to life. A moment of darkness, then a bright beam again. The roof groans. An old barn makes that sound when the wind shifts. But the air's still. No breeze. I rack my brain. Was that a footstep inside, or just my imagination? I push the door. It squeals on rusty hinges. Inside, the smell hits me first. Wet hay, manure, something metallic. I shine my light across the cavernous interior. Stacks of hay bales. An old tractor parked sideways, its front wheel canted. Shadows jump every time I move. I stay on the wooden walkway, trying not to disturb the musty floorboards. Footsteps, definitely. Software from overhead, an open loft. I glance up, see a gap where the boards are missing. The moonlight leaks through, painting silver lines on the floor. I raise my hand to signal backup. Hell, at least let them hear what I hear. But my radio only crackles. No help tonight. It's me in the dark. I draw my flashlight tighter, shine it at the loft's edge. There, movement. Something curling around a floor joist. Fear and relief gut punch me. Not a person. A raccoon, its eyes glowing where the light catches them. It snorts and skitters back into the rafters. I let out air I didn't realize I was holding. False alarm, I mumble. Just a critter. I tap the brim of my hat, annoyed at myself. Then I hear it. A low thump, like something heavy dropped. I freeze. The raccoon would have scurried away, not knocked hay bales loose. I switch off the flashlight and stand in the barn's pitch black. My eyes strain, but see nothing. Cold sweat beads at my hairline. Another thump, closer. I nearly draw my Glock out of habit, painfully aware of the heavy weight on my hip. My breath slows. I remind myself, I've been trained for this. Let's find the source. I click the flashlight on again, beam sweeping left to right. My foot grazes something soft. I jerk my light downward. A piece of cloth, dark, tattered, caught on a nail in a hay bale. Blood? Or only rust from the nail? I lean in. The cloth clings to something. Fabric from a jacket, frayed. I tug gently and it tears. A rust-tinged smear on my glove. Not fresh. Old, dried. My pulse picks up. A man's voice echoes outside. Help me. It's distant, urgent, croaky, human. My heart thunders. Not overactive imagination this time. Backup is still 10 minutes away. I have to move. I pivot and run toward the open doorway. The night air nearly knocks me back, cold and heavy. On the ground outside, tracks in the gravel, boot prints. One set, moving away from the barn to the north. I follow, flashlight beam shaking. The tracks lead to a row of spruce trees, branches brushing the beam. Beneath them, the earth is softer, loam and decomposed needles. I see more prints, deeper, fresh, heading toward the Miller place, half a mile down the road. I should radio it in, but static remains stubborn. I chew on my lip and make a choice. Pursue on foot. The cruiser's headlights line the driveway. I'll track on foot. Can't waste time circling in the car. I jog, the flashlight steady in one hand, my service pistol drawn in the other, tucked low but ready. The road is narrow. I stumble once over a root. I curse under my breath and keep moving. The farmhouse appears, a 2-story, peeling white paint, windows dark, except one upstairs that glows faintly. Porch light long dead. The front door swings slightly in the wind, or does it? My stomach clenches. I step onto the porch. The wood groans. A crow caws somewhere off to the west. I kick the door open. It creaks against the frame. Inside, stale air, furniture covered in dusty sheets. My flashlight cuts through the gloom. Couch, rocking chair, side table. On the coffee table, an empty coffee mug, dried drips staining the rim. Fresh enough that the smell of bitter grounds lingers. I hesitate. Recent inhabitant. Footsteps above, precise, deliberate. I stomp up the stairs 2 at a time. The floorboard near the top moans. I freeze, draw a slow breath. My heart pounds against my ribs, loud, enough to be its own soundtrack. Someone moves in the hallway. A shadow passes behind a door at the end. I creep forward, pistol raised. At the door, I rest the muzzle on the frame and push inside. A small bedroom, narrow window overlooking the dark yard. On the floor, footprints circle a patch of carpet. The prints are bare. Skin oil marks on the fibers. Strange. I lean closer, smudges of dirt, maybe sweat, no blood. Near the wall, a second door slightly ajar, leading to the attic hatch. I reach for the attic, pull, grip the rope. It squeaks as the hatch swings down. A wave of stale, musty air radiates out. The beam falls on a narrow ladder. I climb 3 rungs, flashlight in one hand, pistol in the other. At the top, the attic's low ceiling forces me to crouch. I sweep the beam, old trunks, rafters, wooden beams. Hanging from a joist is a blood-stained blanket, draped over an unseen object. I swallow hard. Blood dark as coffee grounds. My mind races. Is someone here alive, or is this something more horrible? I approach, breathing shallow. The blanket moves, twice, with a slow, deliberate shift. I flip it back in one smooth motion. A face stares up at me. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. The man's skin is pale, eyes glazed. He's alive, but on the floor panel next to him, a length of extension cord coils like a snake, frayed end missing its plug. My heart hammers so hard I hear it. He stirs, croaks. They won't let go. His voice barely audible. I snap on handcuffs, pull him gently into a seated position. He's shaking. Under the blanket, I see bruises along his shoulders, red and purple. He's been dragged, bound. The cord? No plug. He was electrocuted, but he's alive. I help him stand, support his arm. He leans heavily. I half carry him down the ladder, through the bedroom, and out into the night. Sirens in the distance finally answer as backup arrives. Flashing red lights illuminate the yard. I brace the man against the cruiser and slip cuffs on properly. His head lolls, he mumbles, 40 years, buried, isn't enough. I step back, blood pounding in my ears. The barn, the hunter. That cryptic line, so familiar I can't shake it. I watch him escorted to the ambulance, paramedics taking over. The chill wind whistles past, stirring loose gravel. I rub my temples. Tonight was no random call. Something's waking up out here. Arrangements made long ago. A pact of secrecy unraveling under moonlight. And I'm the one here to answer. I climb back into the cruiser, sirens fading behind me, and pull onto Old Mill Road once more. Even with another report down, I keep the radio on, waiting for the next static whisper. The night stretches ahead, each mile a promise of another call, another fragment to piece together. My fingers tighten on the wheel. I glance in the rearview mirror at the dark barn silhouette, half swallowed by pines. There's a pull to go back, to dig deeper. I can't rest, not until I know what's buried under Lakewood County's surface. I press the cruiser into drive and follow the narrow back road back toward Echo Lake. Headlights carving through the mist like twin daggers. The dashboard clock ticks past 1:15 a.m., and the air inside feels heavy, like every molecule outside has weight. I keep my eyes forward, scanning for any movement, but the darkness remains still, as if holding its breath. My radio crackles at the edge of intelligibility. I kill the volume, preferring the hum of the engine and my own thoughts. Deputy Chen's face replays in my mind as she piled evidence on my desk. Journal pages pressed so hard the ink bled through, recordings that carried that impossible voice. I lean back, letting the seat cradle me, and replay the night's calls. Barn on Old Mill Road. Strange lights at the Miller place. Now this rescue of a near-dead man from an attic. There's a pattern here. Each incident forming a twisted web that leads me deeper into the county's secrets. I exit onto Highway 26, tires humming on smooth asphalt, then cut north onto Skyline Avenue. The Miller farmhouse should be sealed off by now, crime scene tape fluttering in the breeze. But my gut says to check. I dim my lights and pull into the overgrown driveway. Shadowed trees arc overhead, branches brushing the roof of the car. The front door is closed, no tape. The paramedics moved the body, and the forensics units already left. I step out, flashlight in hand, boots on cracked concrete. The coffee mug on the porch rail, empty, dried ground staining the rim, hangs in my mind from earlier. I pick it up and sniff. Bitter, stale. Someone had been drinking here not long ago. I circle the house, all windows dark except one on the second floor, which glows faintly. No curtain. Inside, motion. Someone pacing. I draw my service pistol, flashlight under one arm. I tap on the window. The pacing stops. Footsteps approach. A woman's silhouette appears behind the glass. She looks at me. Young, maybe early 30s, dark hair in a loose knot. Her eyes are wide, frightened. She presses her palm to the glass. I wait. She backs away and moves toward the staircase. I kick the door in and hit the floor running up the stairs. The wood groans, but I keep coming until I reach the landing. The window's open, screen torn. I step to it. She's not there. I I spin, hear a soft click behind me. I whirl to face the doorway and see her. Only she's covered in dirt and dried blood that's smudged across her cheek. Her eyes burn with terror. She's barefoot, wearing a nightgown torn at the hem. "Help," she whispers, voice cracked. I holster my pistol. "Ma'am, it's okay, you're safe." I reach out, but she steps back, eyes darting. "I shouldn't be here," she says. "He told me to come, said it would end it all." "Who told you?" I ask, heart thumping. She shakes her head. "I don't know. A voice in the radio." Her hands shake. "He said 40 years, buried isn't enough." My blood turns cold, the same line. She collapses to the floor, sobbing. I pull out my radio mic. "Harris to dispatch. Treat this as a mental health call. Possible witness needs immediate transport." No answer. Static. I curse under my breath. I kneel beside her and grip her shoulders. "We need to get you somewhere safe. Tell me what happened." She looks up, tears streaking dirt down her face. "I heard him in the attic. I thought it was my husband's voice. He died last year. I came to find him." Her voice breaks. "But he wasn't there, and then the blanket moved." She shudders. The attic. The blanket. I swallow hard and grip her arm. "We need to leave now." I help her to her feet and guide her down the stairs. Before we reach the landing, a sudden thud echoes behind us. I spin, gun raised, nothing but empty hallway. The broken alarm buzz in the distance flickers to life. Buzz, buzz, then silence again. My pulse spikes. The fog outside presses against the window panes. I hurry her out the front door and help her into the passenger seat of my cruiser. She leans back, eyes closed, trembling. I slam the door and climb in. I shift gears and peel out of the driveway, tires skidding over broken concrete. When I check my mirror, a dark figure stands in the doorway of the house, slouched, motionless. I blink, and it's gone. I punch the heater on high. She's slumped, breathing hard. I scan the roadside for license plates. No passing cars at this hour. I need someplace to secure her. The sheriff's station is half an hour north. I punch the address into the GPS. On the way, I think about the 3 men who vanished in '71. How each disappearance happened in the same radius. Hikers, fishermen, a forest ranger out on patrol. How Harris quit after investigating those cases and ended up dying years later, haunted by night terrors. And now, this woman, lured here by a voice on a radio, coming back to the very place where the old USGS station stood. I flick on the dash camera. The glow illuminates her face, pale, drawn. She mumbles again. It's not over. They're waiting. I glance in the rearview mirror. In the back seat, shadows shift. I cannot see clearly, but I feel movement. I almost believe something's there, breathing in the darkness. Could be the fog sliding across the road. Could be my mind playing tricks at 2 a.m. I lean forward to talk to her. "You're going to be okay," I say. "We'll figure this out." She nods weakly. It's under the lake. My breath catches. Under the lake, a cave system, water channels, natural amplification. I recall the geologist's report. Underground cavities that could carry and focus sound. But that doesn't explain a voice so clear it mimicked a loved one. We reach the station just as dawn threatens on the horizon. Pale light seeps through the blinds. I park under the flickering lot light and guide her inside. The dispatcher finally answers. "Deputy Harris, about time." I ignore the jab. "Bring an ambulance around back. Witness in mental distress." As I step outside, the fog has lifted enough to show the outline of Echo Lake in the distance, still dark and glassy. I watch the surface. No ripples, no hint of movement. Yet I know beneath that calm veneer lies a chamber of secrets, waiting to speak again. I enter the evidence room and retrieve Walsh's files. The journals, the recordings, the photos of remains in concrete. I spread them across the metal table under the harsh fluorescent lights. My reflection in the glass whispers back at me. Tired eyes, unshaven chin, face drawn with unresolved questions. Behind me, the woman from the Miller house is being led into the clinic by medics. She glances back as the door closes, and her eyes flutter with recognition when they pause on the table. "That's where I heard it," she says softly. I don't respond. I turn back to the materials, to the swirling names. Walsh, Carlson, Merritt, men bound by a project so secret it ate them alive. I trace a finger along the photograph of that triangular cavity under the workshop, like an ear waiting to hear. I feel dread coil in my gut. There will be no rest today. I have interviews to schedule, permits to secure, more maps to study. My shift stretches ahead. I stand and slip the jacket off its hook. The chill of the station lingers on my skin. As I close the door to the evidence room, the lights flicker once, then go dark for a heartbeat. In that moment, I think I hear a soft voice echo down the hall. 40 years buried. Then silence. I rub my eyes and flip the switch. Lights buzz back to life. I swallow. This isn't over, not by a long shot. The legacy of Echo Lake has claimed another, and it's reaching for the next. I ease the cruiser onto the gravel road leading back to the Miller property, heart still pounding in my chest. The dawn light is faint, a pale smear on the horizon, but the mist clings low, muffling the world. Each rock and rut in the driveway reminds me how often I've driven these roads. Yet tonight everything feels new and wrong. I kill the engine a half-mile from the house and cut the lights. The low beams vanish into shadow, leaving only the hiss of the foghorn I keep on the passenger seat. A last resort for someone who needs to be found. I step onto the damp gravel, boots sinking slightly into wet granules. My Glock hangs heavy at my side. I tighten the grip with one hand and slip my flashlight into my coat pocket, nodding to myself. Keep your eyes and ears open. I take 3 deep breaths, tasting cold metal on the air. Striding forward, I pass the dark silhouette of the farmhouse, windows lifeless. The only sign of life is the faint scent of coffee that lingers in the air, trapped from last night's rescue. My reflection flickers in the broken pane by the front door. Fatigued eyes, 5 days of stubble. Uniform creased and wet from the dew. I glance at the attic hatch above the eaves. The hatch is closed, slate gray against the weathered wood. A single rusted nail holds it fast, though if the wind blows hard enough it'd swing open. I hesitate. The body of the frightened woman I rescued rests in the back of the cruiser, hands cuffed for her safety until the medics release her to mental health. I should return to the station, file my report, get an early breakfast, maybe catch a few hours sleep before my afternoon shift. But something tugs me north, toward Echo Lake, toward the heart of the mystery that's turned routine calls into a gauntlet of terror. I climb back into the cruiser and fire up the engine. The dash lights sputter on, illuminating Walsh's recording still open on the passenger seat. Digital waveforms frozen mid-play, flashing red on the timestamp 2:47. I know what's on those files. Static that shift into a voice that chills me, but I want to hear it again. I press play, speaker muted, volume low through my earbuds. The hiss gives way to whisper, 40 years buried isn't enough. Then static again. I yank the earbuds out and rip off the file drive, pocketing it. I pull away and head for the highway. The road curves gently, disappearing into forest on either side. Douglas firs loom like silent sentinels, branches draped in mist. The cruiser's headlights illuminate swirling droplets. each bead of water catching light before sliding down the windshield. The wipers squeak in protest. I flick them off, leaving the droplets to blur my vision because I'd rather see them than nothing at all. I reach Highway 26 and turn west, toward the lake. The speedometer climbs, but I keep it below 60. This road is narrow, 2 lanes, shoulders thin. The memory of that attic shakes me. The flannel blanket soaked in old blood. The way the man's eyes locked onto mine as he whispered about voices. The snap of the broken alarm that sounded half a mile away. If someone wanted to scare the hell out of me, they could have just set up that trap. But this feels bigger. Like someone or something wants me to know I'm not welcome. 10 minutes later, I turn off at the Echo Lake exit. An ancient wooden sign creaks in the breeze. Echo Lake Recreation Area. Beneath it, someone painted in black spray. The voice awaits. I slam the brakes, slide to the side of the road. The cruiser rocks on its suspension. I whip the door open and step out. My boots sink into wet grass. The air here is thicker, humid with water. The spray from the lake drifts in. I breathe it in. It's brine and rot, the smell of centuries. I approach the edge of the water. The moon, still high, reflects on the surface like a torch. The lake is unnaturally calm. No waves, no ripples, not even from a leaf. I kneel on the shore, palm pressing into cold, damp earth. I let the full weight of the night wash over me. Memories of Walsh's workshop, the poisoned water under that concrete slab where the USGS tower once stood. I trace a finger along the muddy bank. It glistens, then dries. Footsteps crunch behind me. I whirl, flashlight drawn, but the pants pocket is empty. Damn it, I left it in the cruiser. I spin back to the water's edge. There's only morning mist. The steps close in again, faster, lighter. I spin back, training the trucker hat I wore once on a shift. Nothing. My chest heaves. Then it comes. The faint hum of electricity, like a transformer under load. Too low to be normal. I cup my ear. The hum deepens, rising and falling. It's coming from under the lake. I lean forward, eyes scanning the shining water. Somewhere below, a current stirs. I hold perfectly still. The deeper hum shifts into a pulse, like the heart of the lake itself beating. My skin prickles. I stand and back toward the cruiser, every muscle taut. My pulse thunders in my ears, the only sound loud enough to drown that hum. I need to record it. Proof. I pull out the recorder I carry for interviews. It's a small digital unit, mic exposed. I flick it on, set it on the hood. The hum grows louder on the playback screen. A wave oscillating at a slow frequency. Then a voice over it, low and gravelly. 40 years isn't enough. I press record. The words echo across the lake. I feel them in my bones. I shout, "This is Deputy Harris. I need to know who you are." My voice cracks. The only reply is the hum, then a gurgling sound like water over stones. I lean closer to the hood, trying to hear through the recorder's tinny speaker. Footsteps once more. I spin around. Emerging from the mist, a figure trudges out of the shallow water. At first, I think it's the hunter who called about the barn, but the silhouette is too thin, too tall. He wears a raincoat that drips. His head is down. I take a step forward. The recorder picks up our 2 heartbeats, mine staccato, his slow and steady. The mist parts as he comes closer. He stops 4 feet away. I raise my badge. Lakewood County Sheriff's Office. My voice steadier now. "Sir, step back." He tilts his head. Pale water drips from his coat onto the grass. When he looks up, I see the skin around his eyes has peeled away. Rows of red muscle and glistening white bone. The lens of one eye dangles by a thread. No pulse in his neck. He's dead, but not cold. warm like a body that's breathing. I stagger back. The recorder falls off the hood, wheels spinning as it clicks off. The mist curls around his boots, lapping at his ankles. I grip my pistol, mouth dry. He lifts one hand, crooked fingers dripping water. His lips part. A voice, identical to Walsh's recording, rises from those rotted lips. 40 years buried isn't enough. My legs give out. I drop to my knees. Every instinct screams to run, but my body freezes. He steps forward, each footfall silent on wet grass. I press my back to the cruiser, trying to find my radio. My fingers fumble across the console. My location is I holler into the mic. Static, no connection. My eyes flick to the figure. He stares at me, water pooling around his boots. I feel the pull of the lake behind him, a silent command to come closer. I shove off the cruiser, pistol out, hand shaking. I fire one shot at his chest. No sound except a dull thud. The round lodges in wet cloth. He doesn't flinch. The bullet falls free, splashing into the shallow water. He smiles, a slow curl of torn flesh. The mist swirls violently as if stirred by an unseen hand. My ears roar, then nothing. I scramble to my feet and sprint for the cruiser. Hands fumbling, I pull open the door, slam inside and bolt the locks. The engine turns over and I peel away, tires throwing spray at the shore. Through the windshield, the figure stands at the water's edge, motionless, silent. The mist closes around him, and he vanishes. I don't stop until the station is in sight, lights blazing in the fog. I fling open the door and run inside, gasping. The dispatcher looks up from the console, eyebrows raised. "Harris," she says. "What the hell happened?" I grip the edge of her desk. "Get me the county coroner and the sheriff. Tell them I need a team at Echo Lake, now." She nods, eyes wide. "You okay?" I swallow, words catch in my throat. I pinch the bridge of my nose. "No," I answer. "I'm not okay." I pull onto the soft asphalt of Forest Road 12, headlights carving arcs through low-hanging fog. The cruiser's engine idles. The hum thrums against my ribs like a second heartbeat. Dawn's pale fingers haven't reached the sky yet, but the eastern horizon glows faintly. An omen that night's domain will soon surrender to daylight. Still, the mist holds its ground, cloaking everything beyond the beam in shifting gray. I climb out, boots hitting the damp road. Gravel shifts underfoot. My breath fogs in the air, each exhale a whisper of cold. In my right hand, I carry the recorder I salvaged, its red light a beacon in the dim. The console flickers behind me. In the back seat she sleeps in a fetal curl, the Miller House survivor, hands cuffed for her own safety. The medics grumbled, but I insisted on bringing her along. She's part of this puzzle, whether she knows it or not. I look down at the device. It holds a snippet of proof, a voice from the deep. But it's incomplete. I need more. I push off and walk along the roadside shoulder toward the lake. The spongy earth swallows each step. My radio hangs silent, buried under layers of static. A crow caws overhead. I look up, skeleton branches silhouetted against the gray sky. The birds roost here, hidden in daylight. At night, we're intruders in their realm. I walk toward the water's edge. The shoreline curves in a gentle arc, lined with alder and willow. Each tree stands like a sentinel. My boots sink into mud. I swallow. The recorder vibrates in my coat pocket, low battery. I wish I had a charger here, but I'm beyond signal now, beyond help. Just me and the lake. I stop where the land dips. The water's surface glitters. No wind to ripple it. I kneel and place my palm on the damp soil. Moisture seeps into my leather. I close my eyes, recalling the geologist's words. subterranean channels, natural amplifier. Sound can travel, distort, build into something human. I squint into the mist. On the recorder's screen, the waveform wobbles. Wave, static, voice. I lean forward and press playback, static, then breath, then 40 years buried isn't enough. The words stretch out, monosyllabic, hesitant. The grainy speaker crackles, but the phrase is unmistakable. A whisper against the roar of my pulse. The mist ripples. I glance up. A figure steps out of the water. This time, further from shore, slow and deliberate. Black coat plastered to him. Water dripping in rivulets. I hold the recorder tighter, tune it toward him like a directional mic. My other hand slips to my pistol. He raises his head. Water cascades from his face, hair matted. The light catches hollow eye sockets. No eyes, just dark pits. Mouth agape. He's older than the man at the barn, thinner, sinewy bones beneath that soaked coat. He tips his head and whispers, "You shouldn't have come back." His voice echoes across the lake, a soft wind among the trees. I stand, adrenaline alight. In the distance, a loon cries once, haunting. A ripple disturbs the mirror surface. Then more ripples, as though something large moves below. My ears ring. I blink, recorder still playing. On the screen, a new voice overlaying the first, male but younger, urgent. "Help me." Then static. I spin, hunting for the source. The shoreline fades into haze. My boots slide on wet grass. Something shifts among the reeds. I step toward it, hand drawn to the holster strap. A broken paddle, half buried in mud, flat and splintered. Then a sound behind me, snap of a twig. I whirl. Footprints traced in the mud lead back toward the road. One protector's, one bare. Knife marks in the prints. I shine my flashlight. 2 trails diverge. One toward the old boat ramp, one toward the pine copse. I have a choice. The ramp holds the submerged barge, last seen in the 71 disappearance file. The copse holds the forest, where the search parties found nothing. If I follow the ramp, I risk drowning. If I move into the woods, I risk getting lost. My heart punches. I choose the ramp. I jog through reeds, my boots drag, the recorder bounces in my pocket. I push aside willows and see it, the boat ramp, slick with algae. Rusted rails at the top. A dark shape half submerged a few yards offshore, the bow of an old survey barge. My flashlight sweeps across the deck, planks rotten, railing collapsed. Scattered cables coil around metal debris. I slip and fall on the ramp, hand hitting algae-slick wood. Pain lances through my palm, but I grip the railing and haul myself up. On the barge, only silence. I squat down and scan the deck. Footprints caked with mud. They're too large for a woman's foot, deeper for a heavy boot. They circle, head toward a hatch cover at the center. I grip my pistol between my teeth, free hand on the hatch. I lift. It's heavy, stiff. Mud drips into the hold, a wave of fetid air rising. I gag. I yank it open. Black void yawns. My flashlight reveals a ladder descending into darkness. Warm, humid air spills out. Stale, like a crypt. I draw my weapon. Ladder coils downward. No chainsaw or electric saw. Just ladder rungs bolted to steel walls. My flashlight beam dances on rivets. I step onto the first rung. It creaks. Beyond, engine parts rusted. Hydraulic pumps, valves frozen in place. I climb, each rung slick. After 5, I hear water, pooling, then dripping. A soft patter, a plip-plip echo. At the bottom, I hit solid ground. Mud up to my ankles. The flashlight cuts through the liquid darkness. Conduit pipes along the curved hull, green mold crawling across surfaces. The smell, thick, ammonia and rot. I follow the pipes to a chamber under the hull's center. The shape is unmistakable. Concrete foundation, 6 feet wide, arcs of rebar protruding. Then metal door, small window grate. It's sealed, thick steel. The latch is corroded but turns with a wrenching groan. I brace my foot and pull. The door swings inward, squeals of tortured hinges. Inside, a cement corridor, damp walls glistening, hair-thin cracks oozing water. I step in, flashlight off to see the full glow of my torch in reflection. Ceiling low, maybe 6 feet. I crouch. At the far end, a single bulb flickers, bare, dangling. Beneath it, 2 headstones carved into concrete block, names faded. Above them, scrawled in ancient red paint. Here we lay. Here we stayed. A pulse in the corridor, a hum of machinery. I step forward. Water ripples at my boots. My light catches shapes leaning against the walls. Rusted cuffs, lengths of cord, frayed fabric. Then I see them. Skeletal shapes fused into the concrete floor, limbs splayed as if struggling. Clavicles broken, ribs splayed. I swallow. Among them, a mound of earth, disturbed. My flashlight beam lands on a pale hand clawing upward. Flesh intact, thick with decay, hair matted. Fingernails caked with earth. I step closer. The hand jerks, sharp. My heart skips. The mound shakes as the figure beneath pushes upward. A face emerges, dead eyes, slack jaw. The voice is faint. Help! Me! I pull back, gun pointed. It's a body, but something alive. Something persisted. The creature, if I can call it that, crawls free. Drenched in water and mud, skin flaking. Black eyes peer at me. It raises an arm, a crooked finger beckoning. The hum rises, filling the chamber. I feel it in my chest. My radio crackles. First time tonight. Harris, you there? We're sending a unit to Echo Lake. I approach. The creature's head tilts. Water drips from its hair into the pool. I cock my gun. Stay back. My voice echoes. No reaction but a slow, deliberate step forward. The hum grows louder as if the walls themselves pulse. The fluorescent bulb flickers overhead, blinking out. Darkness. The creature stands in silhouette, water pooling at its ankles. Then a flash. The bulb reignites. In its harsh light, I see dozens of impressions along its arms. Bruises, matches with Walsh's journal descriptions. The thing was built from these crimes. Living proof. It opens its mouth, no words, only a guttural rasp. A rush of damp air, then, in perfect, chilling clarity. 40 years, buried, isn't enough. I fire. The shot cracks. The creature staggers but doesn't fall. Water surges around us, flooding the chamber floor. My boots float. I try to hold my ground. It steps closer. I fire again. Bullet thuds into its chest, no effect. It reaches out, fingers brushing my arm, cold as ice. I stagger back toward the hatch ladder. My pistol clicks on an empty chamber, no rounds left. The recorder slips from my pocket and drops into the water with a plop. The creature watches me, inches from my face. Its breath smells of brine and rot. Then, slowly, it dissolves. Skin melting into droplets, bone crumbling into slurry. By the time I hit the ladder, only water and concrete remain. I scramble back up the ladder, soaked to the waist. The hatch above is sealed. I shove, wrenching it free. Earth and algae fall. I haul myself onto the barge deck, chest heaving. The dawn light filters in, pale and weak. I stumble to the railing, collapse against it. The mist parts, revealing the ramp and shoreline. No creature. Only the recorder floating near the hull, blinking red as it transmits static into the empty air. I haul myself into the cruiser, rifle out of my trunk with my free hand. My boots leave wet prints on the seat. I grip the wheel, heart pounding, breathing ragged, no radio, dead. I glance at the dash. No signal. The unit at the station will search for me. They will find the cruiser here, locked, with the recorder running. I swallow bile. The sun breaks the horizon, pink and pitiless. I pull onto the highway, heading for home, for shelter, for sanity. Behind me, the barge sits silent, half submerged. The ramp slick in dawn light. But I know what lies beneath. Secrets older than I dare imagine. I step out of the cruiser and let the fog swallow me whole. Dawn's light hasn't reached Forest Road 12, but the mist muffles even the dull glow of the parking lot lamp behind me. My boots sink into the wet edge of the pavement where gravel gives way to mud. The recorder, and its proof of what I heard, lies abandoned on the hood, still blinking red. I should retrieve it, but every instinct screams to move forward, deeper into the unknown. The shoreline curves ahead, alder and willow leaning toward the water like curious onlookers. My breath fogs in front of my face. I pull my jacket tighter and advance. Each step feels heavy, as though unseen hands press down on my shoulders. Somewhere behind me, the distant growl of a siren finally breaks through, but it's too late. I'm alone again. I reach the boat ramp and climb onto the slick rails. Water laps at my boots. The air tastes of brine and something darker, decay. I shine my flashlight into the murk. Beneath the surface, shapes drift. Broken boards, rotted planks, cables coiled like snakes. The barge hull rises out of the water. Half flooded, its deck wrecked by decades of neglect. I half slide, half climb onto the deck. The wood creaks. My flashlight beam catches the hatch I opened last night. Its edges are crusted with algae. The latch hangs limp. I brush away a layer of mud and steel myself. Below, that cement corridor waits where men were buried alive. The memory of skeletal limbs still trembling from the concrete chills me more than the night air. I crouch and peer through the hatch. Water drips down, pooling in dim puddles. I swing my flashlight in. The ladder glints with rust. Heart hammering, I ascend down once more, each rung slick, each breath a measured ritual. At the bottom, I stand in shallow water that sloshes over my boots. The walls shimmer with moss and mold, the air thick with damp. I raise my light toward the chamber's center. The two headstones, faded rectangles carved into the beam, loom ahead. The red scrawl, "Here we lay, here we stayed," glares back. Behind me, the corridor entrance seals itself in darkness. Only that single, flickering bulb overhead. I take a step forward and the hum returns. The low mechanical pulse of hidden machinery, or perhaps the echo of voices trapped by geology. The sound shifts, weaving between decibels and whispers. I grip my pistol, knuckles white. Rain-like drips fall onto the concrete, echoing in the emptiness. From the far end of the chamber, water bubbles up through thin cracks. I shine my light on it, muddy, murky. The surface ripples, then resolves into the outline of something moving below. A foot emerges, pale flesh, mottled and slimy. It pushes against the concrete slab, struggles upward. The hum vibrates against my chest. A figure pulls itself free. A man, clothed in torn coveralls, his skin bluish and mottled. Water cascades off him in rivulets. He looks around, eyes empty but accusing. His lips move, but no sound emerges. I step back. One hand extends, skeletal fingers flexing. I remember Walsh's recordings, the voice so clear it pierced static. This creature's mouth moves again, and the hum shifts to speech. "You should have left us buried." His voice rasped like metal on stone. I fire my pistol into his shoulder. The bullet punches through soaked fabric. He doesn't react. The round spins out, falling into the water. He staggers, then advances. each step silent on the concrete. Behind him, the headstones vibrate. Flesh and bone beneath them shift, dozens of ghostly shapes pressing against the walls, silhouettes dancing in the bulb's flicker. I whirl, spot another corpse half fused to the floor. Its jaw works silently. I hear words forming in my mind. 40 years. But I can't place the voice. A roar crescendos as water surges in from behind the slab. The corridor floods fast, reaching my calves. I press my back against the wall, heart pounding. My flashlight slips from trembling fingers, clatters into the pool. Darkness. The bulb flickers and dies. I'm plunged into black. The hum swells into a roar, voices layered in frequencies I can't parse. Something cold brushes my arm. I bite back a scream. My pistol arm twists upward, fingers grazing nothing but water. A skeletal hand clamps around my wrist, ice in human form. I wrench free, stumble backward, water lapping at my waist. My breath is shallow, my brain screaming to get out. I fumble for the hatch ladder. The door overhead is sealed tight, hinges rusted, latch immovable from this side. The water rises, thigh deep now. I glance back. The creature and a half dozen more massing at the headstones are advancing. Adrenaline surges. I kick the wall, trying to gain purchase, but my boots skid. I scramble forward, chest pressed to the cold concrete. My fingers splinter on one of the engraved names. The letters rub off on my glove. Harris. I choke. My name on a headstone. A laugh bubbles up, sick and bitter. Suddenly, the bulb brightens. An impossible glare. I shield my eyes. When I look again, the corridor is empty, not a flicker of movement. The water settles, calm and still. The headstones are gone. Only the empty chamber remains. Gasping, I rise. The hatch door above is ajar. No rust, no resistance. I climb out, limbs burning. On deck, the dawn's glow gaps through the mist, golden and deceptive. I scramble back to shore, boots slipping on the algae. I race for the cruiser, collapse inside, and slam the door. Hands shaking, I fire the engine. The dash light reveals blank GPS, no signal. The recorder sits silent in the passenger seat. I don't dare touch it. I drive away, tires cutting through the shallow water of the ramp. Behind me, the barge vanishes into the mist, silent and still. I don't look back. Instead, I focus on the road ahead, the choke of mist, the weight of what I've seen. I cut the engine and sit in darkness for a moment, letting the damp chill seep into my uniform. The foghorn's distant bellow fades, replaced by the low ticking of my watch. The lake's surface beyond the windshield is a black mirror, broken only by waves of mist drifting over the water. I reach across the console for the recorder. Its red light finally sputters and dies. I tuck it into my coat pocket, silent proof of a voice no one will believe. I ease the cruiser forward onto the narrow road hugging the shoreline. Gravel shifts under my tires. Pines lean inward, their needles collecting droplets that patter on the roof. My breath is shallow. Each inhale tastes of algae and rot. I pause at a fork. One path leads back toward the highway, the other deeper into the recreation area. I choose the latter, following a path marked no trespassing decades ago but long since ignored. The road narrows further until it ends at a small clearing where the remains of an old boathouse stand. Split boards and sagging rafters coated in moss. I step out, flashlight in hand, pistol low but ready. The air is still, as if the forest itself holds its breath. My boots crack branches and rustle dead leaves. Ahead, the boathouse's shadow looms like a gaunt skeleton. I approach the doorway. Inside, water laps at a rotten dock. I shine my light across broken oars, a collapsed bench, the plastered sign warning, Danger, do not enter. I step cautiously onto the dock, each board groaning under my weight. The mist curls around my legs. I feel the resonance again, the hum so faint I almost doubt it. But I close my eyes and listen. It's there, like a distant engine idling below. I step off the dock onto shallow water, boots sinking. The mud sucks at my heels. I raise my light to the water, illuminating ripples that spread from a single point, a submerged grate mounted low on the boathouse wall. Concrete edges beveled smooth, covered in slime. Through the grating, I see a shaft leading down, dark and wide enough for a man to squeeze through. I kneel and touch the grate. It's cold, the concrete still damp from the lake. My fingers trace the outline of a circular handle. I pull upward. The grate resists, then gives with a groan. Water rushes in. I brace the edges and tug until it lifts free. A shaft descends into blackness, rivulets cascading down the walls. I shine my light in. Metal rungs bolt firmly to the stone, slick with moisture. The hum grows louder, vibrating through the metal and up into my bones. I hesitate. The memory of the corridor under the barge flares. Drowned bodies, the carved names, that moment when the bulb died. My skin crawls, but I know there's more beyond this point. Hallways, chambers, secrets older than any living soul in Lakewood County. I holster my pistol, use both hands to grip the first rung, and climb down. Water sloshes around my waist by the third rung. My uniform soaks through. The chill cuts deeper. The hum now a constant, low drone. My flashlight shakes, but I force my hand steady. At the bottom, I step onto slick stone. The shaft opens into a tunnel arched low, carved directly from bedrock. The walls glisten with moss and ancient lichen. In the ceiling above, a grid of iron bars lets in faint light from the boathouse. The air here is thick, scented with earth and something faintly metallic. I move forward, flashlight beam cutting through darkness. The tunnel curves left, leading toward a broader chamber. My footsteps echo. Plip, plip of water, the scrape of fabric. I come to a junction. Two paths, one descending deeper, one rising slightly. The deeper path hums louder. The rising path carries debris and splintered wood. A sign of collapse, or perhaps something torn away. I choose the deeper path. Each step down tilts my world into gloom. Water reaches my chest by the end of the descent. I lift the beam to find submerged shapes, barrels, cables, lengths of pipe, discarded by time. The hum reverberates through them, creating a discordant chord. Ahead, a wall of concrete bars blocks the way. Vertical slats through which golden dawn light seeps. Beyond the slats, water reflects the glow, illuminating rippling patterns on the opposite wall. The slats are spaced wide enough for a man's arm to slip through. Between them, I glimpse movement in the deeper water. A dark form, drifting. I squeeze through the slats one arm at a time, breath catching as my jacket catches on the metal. I wrench free and wade into the water. It's knee-high before the slats, then drops away into abyss. I hover at the edge, peering into the void. The hum pulses, as if beckoning. I drop the flashlight on a submerged rock. It sinks slowly, beam dimming but still braving the dark. I press my hand against the bars and call out, "Who are you? What do you want?" Silence, then a soft splash, like something large moving beneath the surface. My heart hammers. I fish in my pocket for the recorder. Dead. I curse and pull my Glock. Behind me, a rusted hatch scrapes open. I spin, gun raised, to find a woman emerging. Pale and soaked, the same one from the Miller house. Her eyes are vacant, lips parted. She drifts toward me, gait unsteady. In her hand, she clutches a broken reel to reel. Tape, soaked through, but the reel still spins. I lower the gun fractionally. "How did you find me?" My voice echoes. She passes the tape to me, water dripping. I snatch it and examine the label. Echo Lake, 1971. My blood runs cold. I press the record button on her tape. It whirs and crackles. A voice. Male, younger than Walsh, urgent. "They buried us alive. They will not rest." The tape cuts out. The hum peaks, filling my head. The woman steps closer until she's an inch away. Her breath smells of damp earth. She tilts her head and whispers, "They're hungry." I fire my pistol. The bullet cracks the stone wall, sending shards into the water. The sound crescendos and the hum warps into a scream that rattles my bones. The woman's face contorts. Her eyes roll back. She collapses, water sloshing up over her. I step back, breathing hard. Behind me, the tunnel walls begin to collapse. Stones shifting, water gushing in torrents. I wrench the hatch, climb through the bars, and haul myself up. The rising water sloshes through the slats as I scramble back into the tunnel. I sprint toward the shaft ladder, water swirling around me. Each rung takes me closer to the boathouse. The metal is slick. I slip once, catching myself with one hand, the other on the ladder. The corridor trembles as massive stones crash overhead. The hum reaches a fever pitch, then cuts off suddenly. Silence that's louder than any noise. I break through the boathouse floor, landing with a splash. Cold water surges in from all sides, carrying timber and reeds. I scramble to the dock, pull the hatch closed, and wrench the grate back into place. My boots float as the boathouse floods. I dive toward the dock ladder and haul myself onto dry boards, collapsing. The boathouse creaks as water rises faster than I can measure. I stagger to the door, flip a switch by habit, but nothing powers on. No radio, no lights, no wipers. Only the flood and the mist drifting through broken windows. I stagger down the dock, eyes locked on the open road. I reach the cruiser and fumble for my keys. The hotspot is dead. Nothing connects. I slam inside, turn the key. Dashboard lights flicker, then die. No fuel gauge, no gauges at all. The engine coughs and refuses to turn over. Panic surges. I kick the door open and dash for shelter under the boathouse awning. Rain begins to fall. First gentle, then hard, hammering wood above me. Mist coalesces, swirling in sheets. The floodwater from below sloshes against the boathouse supports, groaning like breath. I pull my pistol again, useless without fuel, without light. I look toward the lake, only darkness. In the water at the edge of the dock, I see movement, ripples converging. Shapes swirl beneath the surface. Then, in the crush of wind and rain, I hear it. A chorus of voices rising. Male, female, young and old, murmuring, 40 years buried. Over and over, gaining strength. I back into the darkness of the boathouse, pressing my back against a post. Rain pounds, wood creaks. The voices rise to a single phrase. 40 years buried isn't enough. I shut my eyes, press my fingers into my ears, and let the floodwater lap at my ankles. When I open them again, the voices, like the mist, have vanished. The rain is steady, the boathouse silent but for the drip of water. I feel the weight of the tape in my coat. I close my fist around it and stand. Outside, the rain falls in sheets. The road glistens under an unseen moon. I step out into the downpour. The boathouse awning shields me only momentarily. I pull the hood over my head and walk toward the drowning cruiser. Each step splashes in water pooling on the dock. My boots sink, my uniform soaked through. I reach the car and place a hand on the roof. Rain streams down in rivulets, carving paths. I close my eyes and let the taste of iron fill my mouth. Then I reach into my pocket and pull out the tape. My fingers are numb. I stare at the label. Echo Lake, 1971. The raindrops smear the ink. I know what I must do. Find the original survivors. Find the buried project files, trace every footprint and heartache until I understand what the lake wants. I climb into the cruiser once more. The engine roars to life with a cough. The dash springs on, gauges flickering. I blink, dispel the rain from my eyes, and grip the wheel. Water drips from my hat, pooling at my feet. The voices whisper once more through the cabin speakers, static then clarity. 40 years buried isn't enough. I drive until the highway lights blur into a ribbon of white, my knuckles raw around the steering wheel. The dawn's cold seeps through the cracked window seal, nipping at my jaw. I don't remember my route, only the promise of distance from that drowned boathouse, from watery corridors and the thing that clawed its way free. My uniform is soaked through, but I don't notice. My mind is miles away, tangled in the hush of Echo Lake's secrets. Somewhere past mile marker 47, I pull off the road. The cruiser coughs to a halt, and I kill the engine. No patrol lights glow on the dash now. Only the speedometer's needle drifts back to 0. I lean my forehead against the steering wheel, eyes closed, breathing through the knot in my chest. Sleep is a distant memory. Coffee and adrenaline have been my only sustenance for 36 hours. I swing open the door and step onto asphalt that's slick with early morning rain. My boots click once, twice, and then I hear it. Footsteps behind me, soft as wet leaves drifting across pavement. I spin, pistol drawn, but see nothing in the gray dawn. My breath puffs before me in quick, ragged clouds. "Deputy Harris?" A voice calls from somewhere down the road. I pause, gun still raised. Then I see a figure under the streetlight. A patrol car, lights off, badge glinting on a uniform. It's Chen. She steps forward, hands empty, boots echoing on the road. "You went dark," she says, voice low. "Dispatch has been calling. The station's panicked." I lower my pistol. I needed to clear my head. My words taste bitter. "Listen, we need to talk." She nods and walks beside me as we head back toward the cruiser. The rain intensifies, spilling off my hat brim onto my face. I watch the drops carve rivulets down the hood. I found this. I reach into my pocket and pull out the tape. Echo Lake, 1971. Label smeared. There's more out there, Sarah, more than bodies in concrete. This tape, the original recordings, someone tried to warn us. Chen takes the reel and holds it up, fingertips trembling. "We'll get it analyzed." Her breath fogs in the air. "But you're exhausted." I glance at the lake in the distance, a sheen of steel beyond the tree line. The guardrail rattles as a truck thunders by. The road is empty again. I drop my gaze. "It never ends," I say. "Each time we think we've sealed it off, it finds another way to surface. They're everywhere." Chen's brow furrows. "Who is they?" I shrug, stepping back into the cruiser. "I don't know, but they've been here since 71. They found a way to bind themselves to this place. Voices caught in the water, bodies built into the foundation, whispers in the static." She watches me slide into the driver's seat. "What about you, Daryl? What's your foundation? You're haunted too." I don't answer. I reach for the recorder on the dash. It's dead. Static only. I let it rest. I turn the key. The engine rumbles alive. Rain patters on the windshield. We sit in silence until dispatch finally comes through. "Harris, we need you at the station. Evidence room's been compromised. Someone locked us out." My jaw tightens. "We'll be there." Chen leans forward, voice urgent. "Listen, there's been another missing person report, near the old campground off Forest Road 19. Young man, camper out alone. He called in, said he was hearing voices, then radio went dead. My stomach lurches. Voices? What did he say? Chen glances at me. Last transmission was, "They're calling my name." And then nothing. I grip the wheel, heart hammering. The rain beats a tattoo on the roof. "Get us there," I say, "and lock the station down. No one in or out without clearance." She nods as I pull back onto the highway. Headlights cut through rain, chasing darkness ahead. My radio crackles faintly, a static and then a whisper too soft to catch. I lean in, hand over the speaker, straining. Enough. The words drift across the cab, barely audible. I glance at Chen, whose eyes widen. We share a breathless moment. Then the radio goes silent again. I floor the accelerator. The cruiser surges forward, tires hissing on wet asphalt. The road stretches into gray uncertainty, flanked by pines that brood like silent witnesses. Behind me, Echo Lake fades into mist, and yet it's not gone. Its hunger trails in my wake, a low hum that pulses through the night and clings to these roads. I feel its pull in my bones, guiding me toward the next scene, the next body, the next recording. I don't know if we'll ever finish unearthing Lakewood County's buried sins. Every door we slam just creaks open another crack somewhere else. And I know, in my gut, where the cold tingles, that the final secret lies not in the water or the concrete, but in the space between the living and the dead. The highway bends ahead. My fingers tighten on the wheel. The storm blurs the line between land and sky, and then, in the deepest static of my radio, I hear one last whisper. 40 years buried isn't enough. I blow out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Then I realize I've answered my own question. I'm not hunting them. They're hunting me. My reflection in the rearview mirror stares back, pale and haunted. And I know, whatever dawn brings, I'll never escape the echo of that voice. Because it's not just out there, it's inside me now, alive as the lake itself, waiting for the next call. I keep the recorder on because nobody ever believes what happens on these roads. I'm Deputy Aaron Mills, and every night I ride along County Road 47 until the whispers in my head outpace the static on the radio. It was late May 2019, just past midnight, when the dispatcher cracked through. "Unit 4, we've got an open report. Caller says headlights flashing at the old Carmichael barn. Said they heard something, like scraping." I punched the mic without looking at the clock. My cruiser's headlights cut ribbons through the fog that pooled in the hollows beside the pavement. My boots hit the gravel with a dull crunch as I stepped out, the collar of my uniform jacket stiff against the chill. The barn stood beyond a field of dead grass, its broken windows like blind eyes. A single porch light flickered above the door, pulsing in and out, 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off, casting uneven shadows across the sagging boards. I eased toward the barn, hand hovering near my sidearm but never drawing it. Too conspicuous at night when every sound gets magnified. The wind carried the smell of fertilizer and damp earth, and somewhere beyond the barn, half-broken fence posts hovered in and out of view. Every footstep felt louder than it should. My radio crackled once, long enough to make me think someone spoke, but nothing followed. The porch light quit flickering, and I swallowed, breath visible in the sudden quiet. I knocked just once, sharp against the wood. No answer. I pushed the door open, and it groaned like an old man rising from a chair. Inside, the darkness felt thick, like wet wool. My flashlight beam skittered over overturned buckets, scattered boards, and rusted tools. Then I heard it. Slow, deliberate scraping against wood. Metal on wood. A sound no animal would make. My pulse hammered in my throat as I stepped inches from the doorframe, listening. Another scrape. Closer. I edged forward. The beam caught a pair of boots, scuffed and caked in mud. He stood with his back to me, leaning over something on the ground. My mind froze. Then a low, muffled moan. "Deputy Mills," I said, a voice low. My hand tightened on the flashlight until my knuckles ached. "Oregon County Sheriff's Department. Step away from that." He didn't move. I took another step. The beam swept upward, illuminating a face I'll never forget, pale as a sheet, eyes wide with terror, and something else I couldn't name. He dropped to his knees and turned toward me, but his mouth hung open in a silent scream. I saw the rib cage arranged in a circle at his feet, each bone laid with deliberate care. In the center lay a human skull, cracked at the seam, teeth exposed like a scream trapped in time. My stomach pitched. I reached for my radio, fumbled the mic, swore under my breath. "Dispatch, I need backup and CSI to Carmichael Barn, now." By the time daylight came, the scene looked surgical under the harsh floodlights. Metal barriers cordoned off the yard, forensic teams worked in white suits, and I stood back, hands in pockets, trying to swallow bile. In my pocket, the recorder captured my every breath. 2 weeks later, I avoided County Road 47, but the guilt never let me. I got the call at 2 a.m. Unit 4, suspicious vehicle on Harris Road, lights on, engine running, no one inside. I found the SUV idling under a flickering street lamp. Engine quiet, but for the hum of the alternator. The rear door hung open, and loose gravel crunched under my boots as I approached. My light beam cut through the steam rising from the gaps in the pavement. Inside, the seats were wet, like someone cried. I crouched by the driver's side. On the passenger seat lay an old Polaroid, blurry image of the barn's circular bone pattern taken from above. I stared at it until my vision blurred. Who would drive 50 miles with that photograph? I searched the SUV. Nothing but an empty thermos, a pair of gloves, and a map of the county with crimson circles drawn at 4 creek crossings. One circle exactly matched where we found that first pattern. The other 3, places I'd never even heard of. My hands trembled as I bagged the Polaroid for evidence. I snapped photos of my own, map, circle, cracked leather seat. I stayed by the SUV until dawn, leaning on the hood, teeth chattering as I watched steam drift across Harris Road. The next night I pounded pavement heading to the first creek crossing marked on that map. My cruiser's engine roared like it was as anxious as I was. When the road ended at a rusted gate, I got out and climbed the fence. The moon was a pale coin, casting faint light over the creek bed. I navigated by memory, shallow pools that formed patterns in the mud during spring floods. In the center of the largest pool was a skull, white and unblinking in the moonlight. Surrounding it, rib bones radiated outward like the spokes of a twisted wheel. Every detail matched the Polaroid. My jaw clenched. I pulled my flashlight from its mount and swept the circle once, twice, then set it down on a flat rock so the beam rested on the skull. I took out the recorder and clicked it on. May 18th, 2019, third discovery, same pattern. Skeleton arranged by hand. Each bone placed to match the flood pools. I'm beginning to think the killer doesn't just arrange the bones. He uses the landscape itself. My voice cracked. I paused. God help me, I can't sleep. I spent hours photographing the formation from every angle until dawn grayed the sky. On my way back, I drove past empty barns and deserted farmhouses. Each silhouette looked like a jail cell. I wanted to run the engine, scream until someone stopped, but I was alone. Over the next month, we discovered patterns at 2 more creek sites. Each time, the bodies grew fresher. Smaller pools meant less time submerged, less decay. I saw the progression. Victim 1 left to rot for months, victim 2 for weeks, victim 3 almost fresh. The maps showed 6 marked sites, 5 had yielded nothing. The 6th, I knew, would only end one way. I volunteered for that midnight patrol, choosing the longest stretch of gravel road that cut through Pine Ridge. I parked at the trailhead, radio off, recorder on. The air smelled of pine and damp earth. My boots sank slightly in the mud as I walked toward the creek. I kept the flashlight at my side, beam low. Then I heard it. A soft scraping like bone against stone. I froze, listening. The wind died for a heartbeat, and I heard my own heartbeat in my ears. The sound came again, closer. Every instinct screamed to run, but I moved forward instead, calling, "Show yourself." Nothing. I clicked the flashlight brighter and swept it across the clearing. There, a figure hunched over the ground, gloved hands placing a rib, aligning it with 2 others. The circle was incomplete. Only 4 ribs so far. In the center lay another skull, half buried in mud. My stomach lurched. I swallowed hard, lunging my hand toward the radio mic. Before I could speak, he looked up. A man in a dark jacket, face pale, eyes hollow but focused. He didn't flinch. He placed the last rib, then stood straight, chin raised. I swallowed. "Don't move." He didn't. He took a step backward, slow, deliberate, and raised his hands. In one, he held a folded photograph, taken from the air, showing all 6 circles marked in red on the county map. He watched me, expression unreadable. Shots rang out, echoed as deafening cracks in the night. I tumbled backward, heart hammering. The figure jerked, then collapsed into the creek. I fumbled for my gun, hands slick with mud and sweat. I fired 3 times into the darkness, each shot thudding hollowly. The world spun as I stumbled back to my cruiser, leaving the circle behind. My boots slipped on mud, arms scraping against brush. I slammed into the driver's door and locked it, radioing dispatch. My voice was raw. Shots fired at Pine Ridge. I'm pinned down, sent static, swallowed my words. The recorder in my pocket captured every snap of gunfire, every ragged breath. I didn't wait for backup. I floored the accelerator and tore down that gravel road, headlights flickering on the curves. I keep the recorder running because nobody ever believes what happens out here. I'm Deputy Aaron Mills of the Oregon County Sheriff's Department. Night patrol, County Road 47, but I might as well have a desk in the wind. I've been at this for 6 years, and every night I answer calls where no good thing can happen. It started that May evening in 2019. I'd eaten microwave pizza in my cruiser, watching the dashboard clock tick past 2350, waiting for something, anything, to break the monotony. The air was still thick with humidity, weighing on my shoulders like a wet blanket. Cicadas droned in the pines, and every now and then a whippoorwill echoed down the valley. My radio was silent, but for the faint hiss of static whenever I keyed the mic. At 0012, the dispatcher's voice cracked through. "Unit 4, we've got an open report. Caller, Carmichael Barn, off County Road 47. They heard scraping, like metal on wood." That word, scraping, felt wrong. I eased the cruiser onto the gravel, headlights carving through the darkness. Each mile marker passed in rapid succession, mile 3, mile 4, until the road veered left and I saw the barn's silhouette. It rose from the field like a rotting tooth. Broken windows stared emptily. Boards sagged from the rafters. The tin roof was half collapsed. A single porch light, bulb half burnt, winked on and off. 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off. I killed the engine. The world fell silent. Only my breath and the faint buzz of that dying bulb. I stepped onto loose gravel. Each crunch echoed. Gravel slid under my boots and I tasted metal in my mouth. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might break my ribs. I clipped the recorder to my pocket, turned on my mag light, and slipped off the cruiser. The wind kicked up, swirling dust into the beam of my flashlight. I approached the barn, hand hovering near my sidearm, but not drawing it. Drawing a weapon out here felt like a guarantee I'd need it, and I wasn't ready for that. The porch light blinked off right as I reached the door. The scrape came again. Sharp, deliberate, like a blade being sharpened on a stone. I knocked once, hard, on the warped door. It groaned open at my touch. Inside was darkness so complete it felt alive, pressing against my lantern beam. Dust motes danced in the light, settling on overturned buckets and tangled ropes. Every tool and plank of wood seemed arranged for maximum menace. Another scrape, this time behind me, made me spin. My beam caught a pair of boots half hidden in shadow. Mud caked and worn down at the heels, they stood perfectly still. I swallowed, throat gone dry. "Sheriff's Department, Deputy Mills," I said, voice flat. "Step into the light." Silence. Then a low moan, muffled, as if someone tried to speak but found no words. I edged forward, beam sweeping. The figure hunched over something on the floor, hands tracing shapes in the dust. I took another step. The beam found their face. Eyes wide, skin chalk white, pupils dilated with a mix of terror and something else. Their lips parted, but no sound came. My beam dropped to the floor. A circle of bones gleamed white in the dark. Ribs laid like fence posts around a human skull perched at the center, jaw clenched as if frozen mid-scream. Every bone looked placed, carefully, deliberately. No blade marks, no signs of animal disturbance. Some sick part of me registered the symmetry, the ritual quality. I swallowed. My tongue felt glued to my palate. I fumbled for the radio mic. "Dispatch. This is Deputy Mills. Send backup, CSI, everything you got. Carmichael Barn, scraping, possible homicide scene." The radio crackled back. "Copy that, Unit 4. ETA, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Darkness closed in and I felt small under that barn's roof. I crouched beside the circle, shining the light across each rib, counting them. 12 bones, all from one body. The skull looked fresh, teeth intact, no signs of decay. Meanwhile, my heart hammered so loud I thought the others would hear it on the radio. I stayed until headlights blinked through the broken windows. By dawn, the yard was a swirl of white-suited investigators, evidence markers and cameras. I stood behind the tape, leaning on the cruiser, watching them bag the bones and photograph every angle. Each click of a camera shutter felt like another weight added to my chest. 2 weeks later, I told myself I wouldn't go back to Road 47. But I did. At 2:03 a.m., Unit 4, suspicious activity on Harris Road, the dispatcher said. I nearly ignored it, but the words, "lights on, no one inside," pricked my nerves. I found a black SUV idling under a rusted lamppost. Engine off, but lights glowing. The rear door was ajar. Steam curled from the pavement cracks. I approached, flashlight beam slicing the fog. Inside, the leather seats were damp, like someone cried or bled. On the passenger floorboard lay a Polaroid photograph. Overhead, shot of the barn's bone circle. Blurred, but unmistakable. I picked it up, fingers trembling. Someone had driven 50 miles with that picture. Why? I rifled the glove box. Nothing but an empty thermos and a county map with 4 red circles scrawled in pen. One matched Carmichael Barn, the other 3, places I'd never seen. I bagged the Polaroid as evidence, snapped photos, then watched the sunrise burn away the fog. Every mile back to town, I felt like I carried something alive in my cruiser, something whispering for me to go back. The Tennessee Creek site came next. The day after I discovered the map, I volunteered for the overnight stakeout. I parked at the trailhead where the creek spilled onto flat farmland. I sat in the cab, recorder rolling, knuckles white around the steering wheel. The moon was a thin crescent, barely lighting the shallow pools carved by spring floods. I stepped out at 1:27 a.m. Mud sucked at my boots. It smelled like wet earth and decay. I carried my flashlight low, beam grazing the ground. Every cracked stem of grass looked like a finger pointing at me. Then I saw it, a skull tucked among the reeds, shining pale in the beam. Behind it, ribs radiated outward, half buried like spokes in a wheel. I flicked the light around, no figures, no movement, just the soft gurgle of creek water. My breath hitched. I clicked on the recorder. May 18th, 2019. Tennessee Creek site. Third discovery. Pattern matches, skull-centered, ribs circled. Landscape used as frame. I choked on the words, paused. My voice cracked. I can't shake the feeling this is deliberate, that someone timed the floods, watched the water recede, then left the victims to be unearthed like harvested crops. I spent hours there, photographing from ground level, tilting the camera toward the sky, trying to capture what no flat image could convey. That moment when life and death both lay, naked in the mud. Every click echoed in the hush, and I realized the woods weren't silent. They were holding their breath. The next markers on the map were in unincorporated stretches, Blackwood Holler and Sparrow Ridge. Each gave up their grim secrets on its own timetable. At Blackwood Holler, I found a near-fresh body, skin still pallid, eyes socket empty but orbit once glossy. Ribs spread in a perfect arc, vertebrae laid out like stepping stones in the mud. I stood back, thumbing the mic. Dispatch, I'm at Blackwood Holler. Fourth body. Fresh. Need immediate extraction. I stayed until the sun flushed the sky pink. Then drove to Sparrow Ridge at sunrise, where the skull lay half-submerged in a pool no bigger than a bathtub. Rings of ribs blurred by water ripples. I scooped handfuls of mud at the edges, hoping to feel something. Rope fibers, footprints, but found only brittle grass and insect tracks. The recorder captured the drip of water, the wind rattling branches. Each scene grew fresher, each pool smaller, like the killer was growing more confident, more reckless. First body left months to decay, second, weeks, third, days, fourth, hours, fifth, Sparrow Ridge, almost alive. They traced it back to Harold Finch, a retired surveyor living in a ramshackle cabin on Carmichael Farm's outskirts. I arrived just past midnight, fog rolling in late. The porch light flickered once, then cut out. No answer when I knocked. Wind rattled the door. I drew my weapon, first time ever, and stepped inside. Boxes of aerial photographs lined every surface, decades worth. Each image showed those seasonal pools, circles appearing on maps like silent screams. Under his workbench, jars of preserved hands, 3 pairs, floated in formaldehyde. Each arranged with fingers splayed, clenched, pointing to tiny X's on old topographical maps. He sat in a rickety chair, collared shirt buttoned, hands folded. His eyes were dull but steady. "You see it, don't you?" he asked. "The land shapes the bones. I just complete the picture." My gun hand shook. I forced him up, cuffed his wrists. He didn't resist, just nodded, as if relieved. After the arrest, I couldn't sleep in the station. I mapped the 6 circles one last time, pressing printouts into my notebook. 5 had been found. The sixth remained secret, hidden deep in the northwest holler. No victim yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. I volunteered for the solo patrol to find it first. The night I went, moonlight was swallowed by rolling clouds. I parked near Sparrow Ridge, recorder on, and walked 12 miles of creek bed to the last circle. My boots cut fresh mud, frogs croaked. The air smelled like spring rain and something metallic. At the spot, I saw fresh disturbance in the mud. Footprints, then a circle of ribs too bright to be old bone. In the center, a skull half buried, jaw loose. I knelt, beam wavering. Then a twig snapped behind me. I turned, heart lodged in my throat. No one, just trees. My flashlight flickered. I pressed record. All the way back, I replayed my breathing, my footsteps. When I reached the cruiser, I saw the Polaroid on the passenger seat. 6 red circles drawn around the holler map. I never typed that report. Instead, I sat with the recorder until dawn, talking like this: confession, warning, prayer. Then I drove to headquarters, hands stained with creek mud. Now I keep the recorder rolling whenever I patrol these roads alone. I listen for scraping, for buzzing alarms broken by distance, for the soft drip of water in hollow pools. I answer every call because this killer thought he could use the land to hide his deeds, but I've traced every circle. And I still haven't found that last body. I step back onto County Road 47 under a sky so dark it feels like the roof of the world has fallen in. My cruiser's taillights fade as I walk toward the next marked site. An old creek crossing where the map shows the 6th circle, unwritten but felt. The mud squelches beneath my boots, and my breath puffs out in ragged clouds. Every muscle in my body trembles, but I keep the recorder rolling, because if I don't capture this, no one will ever believe it. The moon hides behind heavy clouds, and I draw my flashlight from its mount, clicking it on at half power so the beam doesn't announce me to the trees. The woods on either side press in close, branches clawing at my jacket sleeves. Somewhere ahead, water burbles over stones, too quiet, too deliberate, like the creek itself is holding its breath, waiting for me. I reach the shallow pool just past the fallen log that marks the crossing. The water here is dark, but I can see the sheen of bone through the ripples. I set the light on low and lean over the bank. There, ribs radiate outward in a near-perfect semicircle, disappearing into mud at the edges. In the center, half buried in silt, lies a skull. The jawbone is split, teeth missing on one side. My heart hammers. I crouch, hand brushing mud from the skull's brow. It's cold and slightly slick. I support it on my open palm, eyes locked on the empty eye sockets that stare back at me like accusing holes. My boots sink deeper into the bank, and I grip the grass to steady myself. I reach for the recorder mic. June 3rd, 2019, 6th site, final. Creek crossing downstream of Pine Ridge Trailhead. Victim, or remains, arranged in 6 snow, 5 visible ribs forming a circle. Skull at center, jaw split, water level low. Must have been placed at dawn. I pause. A crack behind me, branch snap, pulls my head up. The beam swings around slowly, painting fleeting images. A stump there, a moss-covered rock here. Then I catch movement in the periphery, a flash of dark fabric slipping between trees. I swallow hard, voice trembling. Hello? Anyone out here? No answer, only the creek's hush and the soft scrape of a leaf drifting. I swallow again, fingers tightening around the flashlight. My training says stay calm, observe, call backup. But the radio is dead, no signal past the ridge. I rise, turning slowly, scanning the tree line. Nothing. My reflection glimmers in the water, eyes wide, uniform stained with mud. I step back to the circle, shining the beam over every bone. They're arranged with less precision than before. Only 5 ribs instead of the full ring. It's as if he ran out of time, or changed his mind, or maybe something else interrupted him. The forest feels alive now, shifting. Sounds echo, a distant metal clang, like the scrape I first heard at the barn. I edge toward it, beam sweeping over undergrowth. The echo comes again, a long scraping, then silence. I freeze, posture rigid. "Stop," I hiss, raising my voice so it carries. "I'm law enforcement, show yourself." A figure emerges on the opposite bank, tall, thin, wearing a dark jacket with the hood up. He steps into the moonlight just long enough for me to see the Polaroid clipped to his jacket pocket, the one of the map with 6 circles. He moves slowly, deliberate. His boots crush twigs with every step. My pulse races. I reach for my gun, but the mud sucks at my heel. I stumble, and he's there, sliding the Polaroid into his hand. He holds it out to me, expression unreadable. I yell, finger tightening on the trigger. But before I can fire, he smiles, slow, sad, and bends to pick up a rib from the circle. He lifts it, turns it in his gloved fingers, and places it back with clinical care. Then he looks up, and in that moment I see something in his eyes, regret, perhaps, or satisfaction. I squeeze the trigger. A single shot rings out, echoing off trees. He jerks, stumbles, and falls backward into the creek. Water splashes, and the circle shifts, ribs rolling. I fumble for my radio, voice raw. "Dispatch, shots fired. Suspect down at 6th site. Need all units medevac." Static cuts in. I drop to my knees at the creek's edge, mud soaking through my pants. The body in the water floats, face down, half hidden by ripples. I switch off the recorder, hands shaking so badly I can't clear the mud. I don't stay for backup. I drive away with tires spitting gravel, headlights swallowed by darkness. I park at the station and sit alone, engine idling, recorder dead silent on the passenger seat. Now, weeks later, I replay the shot in my mind. Felt it slam through my rib cage, heard it crack the stillness. I wonder if I hit him or if he just fell, if I'll ever know. I think about those 6 sites and the bodies that waited to be claimed. The map lies in evidence, circles drawn in permanent ink. I ease out of the station parking lot into the night, headlights cutting through mist that clings low over the pavement of County Road 47. My knuckles are white on the steering wheel. The edges feel sharp enough to slice skin. Miles stretch before me, silent except for the hum of the cruiser's engine and the thrum of my own heartbeat. I leave the recorder on, clipped to the visor, its red light pulsing, a metronome marking every second of this drive toward the unknown. I turn on to Pine Ridge Road, the chain-link fence on my right rattling in the wind. Pellets of rain hiss against the windshield, and I flick the wipers once, twice, leaving streaks that catch the amber light of my dash. The world beyond the glass is ghostly, washed in gray and shadow. Every farmhouse window is dark. Every stray dog howl echoes down the blacktop before fading, like a question left unanswered. At the trailhead for the final site, I kill the engine and sit for a moment, listening. Rain beads on the roof. The recorder picks up the pitter-patter as a steady background pulse. I unzip my jacket, breathe out a plume of vapor, and step into the night with my flashlight in one hand and the recorder's mic in the other. The gravel underfoot resists each step, shifting in small avalanches of stone. I hate the sound. Reminds me of bones grinding under pressure. My beam sweeps over decaying logs and tangled underbrush. I follow the creek's faint roar upstream, where the water cuts a narrow trench through slick rocks. The trees form a tunnel overhead, branches intertwining like arthritic fingers. Somewhere ahead, I see the faint glimmer of my own light in the water. I crouch at the bank, breath catching as I lean close. The surface is broken by a pale, curved shape, a rib, half exposed, beneath the brown water. I click the beam wider and step forward. The pool widens into a shallow bowl cut into the earth. A silent amphitheater. Around its rim rests a semicircle of ribs, each bone laid with deliberate precision despite months of rain and runoff. At the center, a skull stares up at me, its cheekbone cracked as if slammed by a hammer. Water laps at the jaw, and I see a dark stain spreading outward. I crouch beside it, pressing the mic close so the recorder picks up the drip of water and the distant rustle of leaves. June 7th, 2019. 6th site confirmation. Creek crossing 2 miles past the old mill. Victim number 6? No. Site number 6? Pattern holds. Ribs framing skull. Jaw fractured. Evidence of force. Water level suggests placement at dawn's first light. Suspect likely racing the floodwaters, timing his offerings for maximum reveal. My voice is low, rough around the edges, as if I'm dragging each word through gravel. I pause, swallowing bile that rises in my throat. Above me, the sky cracks with distant thunder. Clouds roll overhead, and a flash of lightning illuminates the clearing, revealing the full extent of the circle. I rise, brushing mud from my knees, and step back. My boots sink ankle-deep in the soft earth. I reach for my radio, dead silence on every channel. I curse softly, tucking the mic away. The sky opens, releasing a sheet of rain that hammers the trees. The thunder follows, rolling down the canyon like an angry god. I jog back toward the cruiser, rain soaking through my uniform, boots squelching. The headlights flicker when I start the engine, battery low after so many stakeouts. I switch them to high beam and peel back onto the road, hugging the center line as water puddles gather at the edges. My mind races with the geometry of the map. 6 circles and 6 creek crossings, each one found in order of proximity to the barn. He started near home and moved outward, as if mapping his obsession in concentric rings. This last one sits at the outermost edge, a perimeter he dared me to cross. At 1:42, the dispatcher's voice slices through the static. "Mills, you out there?" "Status?" I choke on a laugh, pressing the mic to my lips. "I'm good," I lie, heading back to HQ with evidence. My voice wavers. She responds with reassurance I don't feel. I switch off the mic and lean back, letting the rain beat lull me. My hands slide down the wheel. I rest my head against the seat. Memories flash. The scraping in the barn, the Polaroid on Harris Road, the first bones glinting in moonlight. I see Finch's face, hollow and calm as he explained his completions. I see that last figure at Pine Ridge, raising the rib in slow, ritual ceremony before my shots shattered him. I wonder if he died with that bone still in his hand, or if he dropped it and fell naked into the creek. The cruiser's tires hiss over a puddle. The windshield wipers creak. I want to shut off the recorder, but I don't. Let it catch every moment I can't unsee. I drive through the night, the road yawning ahead, lined by trees that lean in as if to watch. My headlights catch the edge of a sign. County Line, welcome to Redwood. A flicker of irony in the name. The trees here are older, taller, darker. They whisper overhead. I pass the old Carmichael barn on the left. Its broken windows stare back like empty eye sockets. The porch light is dead now. I remember the scraping there, metal on wood, like the land itself crying for attention. I slow the cruiser, letting the beam linger on the sagging boards. A dry branch snaps behind me, startling. I whip around, beam slicing through darkness. Nothing. My pulse spikes and I grip the wheel. I ease into the driver's seat of my cruiser, rain still spattering the windshield. I flip the recorder on and hold my breath. The hum of the engine settles into my bones. A reminder that I'm alive, that someone will hear this. I flick the wipers once, slowly, watching the streaks carve paths through the glass. The road ahead glistens with water, reflecting amber streetlights that fade into darkness at the county line. I press the accelerator, tires hissing, and feel the car lurch forward, every bolt and spring protesting the speed. My chest tightens with each mile. The Carmichael Barn, Harris Road, Tennessee Creek, Blackwood Holler, Sparrow Ridge, Pine Ridge. 6 sights, 6 circles, 6 whispers of death. The map at headquarters shows one more blank spot, the 7th. I turn onto Old Mill Road, where mist coils over low fields. The recorder picks up frogs, croaking, and the distant roar of water slipping over rocks. I keep the beam low, scanning the shoulder for signs. Tire tracks, broken branches, anything. The fog thickens. Headlights shatter it into silver ribbons. My pulse races. I know the final sight sits where the creek meets a dry wash, just beyond the old concrete culvert. I park 50 feet from the culvert and kill the engine. Mud clings to the doorframe as I climb out, boots sinking in soft earth. I clip the recorder to my collar and turn on my mag light. The beam splits the mist, revealing tall grasses bowed under raindrops. I step forward, each footfall measured, no sudden moves. The culvert arches overhead, a dark tunnel 13 feet long. Water trickles through, carving a narrow stream that disappears beneath the road. I crouch at the entrance, listening. Only the drip of water and my own breathing. I click the beam inside. Concrete walls stretch into shadow. I shine around for footprints, for fresh bone, but find only water and the faint outline of moss. I step in, cold seeps through my soul, and follow the trickle toward the light at the other end. My uniform pants soak instantly. I ignore the chill. My beam catches a shape. Ribs. I freeze. Under the dripping ceiling, 10 ribs form an incomplete circle around a dark mass. I step closer. Water pools to ankle depth. Kilo Site 7, July 2nd, 2019. I whisper, voice cracking. Final site, culvert under Old Mill Road, bones placed at high water mark. I crouch, lifting a rib with gloved fingers. It's slick and rough where algae have grown. I lower it, careful not to disturb the circle. In the center lies a skull, pressed into the mud at an odd angle as if pinned by gravity. The mandible is loose, hanging below like a trapdoor. The culvert echoes with my breath. I stand, shining the light upward to catch the walls. Grooves carved by floodwaters show seasonal rise and fall, the killer timed placement when mud was softest, when no clear pathway existed, making retrieval unlikely. He used the landscape's concealment and revelation in equal measure. I raise the recorder mic. This is Deputy Mills. Site 7 confirmed. Final circle under culvert. Bones arranged at floodline. Skull intact, jaw loosened. Water flow suggests placement just before sunrise. All 6 sites form a radius around the barn. Suspect's range mapped, pattern complete. I pause, staring at the skull. I feel its empty gaze. He said there were 6. I counted again. This is the 7th. He finished his work. A distant noise. Water rushing faster or my heartbeat. I click off the recorder and turn, beam sweeping. Behind me, the culvert entrance frames my silhouette. Then, movement. A figure stands at the road's edge, feet drenched, hands in pockets. He's too still, too calm. I step back, heart pounding. Sheriff's Department, don't move. He raises his head. Moonlight catches his face, gaunt, hollow cheeks, eyes cold. He tips his head once and steps into the culvert. Water splashes around his boots. He moves toward the circle, bending to pick up a rib. His gloved hand lifts it slowly, studying it as if admiring a sculpture. I raise my flashlight higher. He stands and fixes me with a look that carries both pride and sorrow. "Thank you for bringing me here," he says, voice low. Echoes in the tunnel. "I wanted you to see the whole map." He pats his jacket pocket. 6 circles, 6 sacrifices. The land shows the way. My breath catches. His calm, his conviction, stuns me. I remember the jars of hands in Finch's shed, the drills of geologist Covington's notes. This man steps around ritual and obsession as if they're everyday tools. Lightning flashes overhead, illuminating his lean frame. Thunder follows, shaking the culvert walls. He smiles and sets the rib back in place. Water ripples, muddling the pattern. Rocks shift, bones tilt. I raise the gun. "Don't move." He turns fully toward me, and in that moment I see the final reveal. No cuffs, no fear, only purpose. "You've done well," he says, stepping backward into the fog outside. Rain hisses on his shoulders, mixing with darkness. Now the story can end. I fire twice as he crosses the road. The shots crack like thunder. He doesn't flinch, only pauses mid-stride, then continues. He vanishes into the mist. I stand soaked, knuckles white on the gun, thinking he's untouchable. My radio dead, the night silent again. I holster and drop to my knees by the circle, using my flashlight to steady. The skull lies unbroken, jaw gaping. Ribs lie half drowned in water. I click the recorder on. Rain patters on the lens. My voice is raw. He escaped. 7 sites complete. The circles. They mark his maps, not mine. I can't chase him, not without risking everything. I rise and leave the culvert, water dripping from my sleeves. I walk back to the cruiser, stepping carefully around disturbed mud. I don't touch the bones again. I climb in and close the door, sealing the storm out. Headlights pierce the rain as I pull onto Old Mill Road. My chest pounds. The barrel of my own gun feels heavy at my side. The recorder sits on the dash, blinking. I glance at it, then at the map on the passenger seat. 6 red circles, 1 blank line trailing into the woods beyond the county line. I pull onto County Road 47, driving slow. The rain thins to a mist. Every so often, I look in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see him standing under a streetlight, map in hand, waiting. I don't stop until the station lights come into view. I kill the engine, unclip the recorder, and press stop. The red light dies. I kill the engine and sit in darkness for a moment. Rain, now a soft hiss against the roof. The recorder's red light blinks steadily. I slide out of the seat, boots squelching in the shallow puddles gathering beneath the door. I tuck my flashlight into my belt, grab the recorder in one hand and my service weapon in the other, and step into the night once more. The station's bright lights recede behind me as I walk toward County Road 47. Every step feels heavy, weighted by what I've seen, and by what I know is still out there. My uniform is soaked, mud streaked across the knees of my pants. I keep the recorder up at chest height, its mic picking up the drip of water from the eaves above. I don't need a map anymore. I know exactly where to go. I cross the road and follow the faint trail through the thicket, where the air smells of wet pine and decay. The underbrush catches my ankles, slowing me, forcing me to move deliberately, to breathe carefully. Somewhere ahead, I hear the creek's murmur, an unending lullaby. I push through a low branch and find myself at the 7th site's edge. A shallow basin carved into the earth, silently holding rainwater like a black mirror. The flashlight's beam swings across the pool's rim. Ribs, 12 of them this time, lie in a complete, unbroken circle. Each is spaced perfectly, angled inward as if drawing my eyes to the center. I feel my chest tighten. I click the recorder on. July 3rd, 2019. Final site confirmation. 7th circle, complete. Culvert site under Old Mill Road. 12 ribs framing a human skull. Jaw intact but fractured. Evidence suggests placement at last high water mark, just before dawn. I crouch at the circle's edge, fingers brushing the slick bone. The ribs are heavy, waterlogged, but rigid. A deliberate gesture. I slide my gun into its holster and rest one hand on the recorder. I walked this trail 12 hours ago and left him here. I fired my weapon. None of it stopped him. He walked away, leaving this final truth behind. He wanted me to see it all, to witness the completion of his pattern. A sudden crack echoes through the trees, wood splitting under weight. I whip my head up. My beam cuts through the darkness but finds nothing. Then the pool's surface ripples, though no breeze stirs. I lean forward, eyes locked on the bone circle. A wet splash behind me. I whirl around, gun raised. In the beam stands a figure, motionless, pale, face half hidden by shadow. The wet fabric of his jacket clings to his frame. He steps forward, boots dark against the muddy bank. His hands are empty, no Polaroid, no map. Only bones remain in the circle. I swallow, voice flat. It's over. You're done. He tilts his head. Water drips from his hair and coat. He doesn't speak but lifts one hand, splayed fingers coated in mud, and points to the circle. His eyes gleam with something between triumph and sorrow. I shift my weight, keeping distance. Why? Why all this? He raises his other hand, pressing his palm to his chest, then extends it toward me. He closes his fingers into a fist as if holding something sacred. I realize with a jolt he's given me the final piece. A single bone, smaller than the rest, cleaned and polished, nestled in his palm. He holds it out and then releases it. It arcs through the air, landing at my feet. My beam falls on it, a child's rib, curved and slender, incongruous among the larger bones. A fresh piece, placed after I left. My breath catches. He steps back into the trees, melting into the mist with a soft rustle of leaves. I deny the impulse to chase, knowing I'd only swallow my own fear. I slip the child's rib into my coat pocket, heart pounding. I click off the recorder. Silence pours over the clearing. The circle's ribs bob gently in the shallow water. The skull at its center stares blankly upward, mouth ajar. I bend and scoop it into my arms, heavy, cold, immutable, and stand slowly, feeling the weight of this final confession. I walk from the pool without looking back. The recorder lies still in my hand. Behind me, the bone circle remains intact, waiting for the next flood to erase it. I slip the skull into my cruiser's back seat, then climb in and close the door. The engine idles. I lay the recorder on the dash and press play. My own voice crackles through the speakers, recounting every sight, every circle, every wrong turn. Then silence. I thumb the mic. Dispatch. I hesitate. No signal. I end the transmission. Headlights on low, I ease onto Old Mill Road and drive toward town. The child's rib presses cold against my side. My palms sweat on the wheel. I pass under the county line sign, granite letters glinting in the beam. Redwood County. Ahead, the station lights flicker in the distance. I pull in and kill the engine. The cruiser rocks gently as rain patters overhead. I open the door and step onto dry pavement. Boot treads wet, heart raw. I place the child's rib on the hood and press record one final time. The night around me is silent, waiting. I speak softly. He wanted me to complete his map, but maps can lie. This bone, it wasn't part of his pattern, it's the final question left unanswered. I slip the recorder into my pocket and step out onto the gravel of County Road 47, the night air heavy with the scent of wet earth and pine resin. My cruiser's taillights fade behind me, leaving only the hush of distant frogs and the soft hiss of residual rain. I walk toward the old concrete culvert under Old Mill Road, Site 7. And with every step, the weight in my chest grows heavier, pressing against my ribs like a second skin. My boots sink into soft mud where the creek's high water mark once swept through. I can hear its faint gurgle beyond the culvert's dark arch, water whispering over stones, reminding me that nature both conceals and reveals. I flick on my flashlight and hold it low, its beam skimming the lip of the culvert's entrance before creeping across slick concrete walls scarred by floodwaters. Shadows pool in the corners, and the beam trembles as I move forward, each footfall deliberate against the soggy floor. In the center of the culvert, where daylight pierces the darkness like a blade, I see the bone circle. 12 ribs, half submerged in a shallow trench of mud, arch in an unbroken ring around a skull tilted at an impossible angle. Its empty sockets gleam in the beam, and the fractured jaw sags as if mid-word. I crouch, fingertips brushing mud from the skull's crown. The bone is cold, heavy with the memory of violence, and for a moment I imagine it is trying to speak. My voice is a whisper when I click the recorder on. July 4th, 2019, Site 7. Final circle under Old Mill Road, culvert. Pattern complete. 12 ribs framing the skull. Jaw cracked, mandible loose. Placement timed just before dawn's first light. High watermark evidence. No signs of animal disturbance, ritual precision. A sudden echo, metal scraping against stone, jerks me upright. My flashlight snaps toward the sound, illuminating a narrow passage that branches off to the east. I wasn't aware of any side tunnel. The culvert my maps show is a straight shot. Yet here, half hidden behind hanging vines, is an alcove I've never seen. Rainwater drips from the ceiling, pooling at the alcove's entrance. The scraping repeats, softer, deliberate, like someone dragging a bone across the floor. My heart hammers. I train the beam inside. A narrow trench leads deeper. The walls narrow until they nearly meet at the top. The beam catches on something pale in the gloom, a femur, half buried in mud. Then another, a humerus angled against the rock. The alcove's pattern isn't a circle, but a spiral. Bones arranged in a tightening coil that spirals inward to a darkened niche. At the center of that spiral lies a smaller skull, child-sized, perfectly intact, save for a single, clean break through the forehead. My breath catches. I stare, the beam shaking in my hand. I crouch at the edge of the spiral and touch the child's skull with reverent caution. It's cold and slick with algae, but beneath the grime I see deliberate carvings. Tiny notches carved along the break line, almost like tally marks. I count 5 marks, neat and uniform. The radio in my belt crackles, an unexpected burst of static that shreds the silence. I fumble for the mic. "Dispatch, this is Mills. Do you copy?" The static swells, then silence. Above me, the culvert's arch shudders as if the tunnel itself is breathing. The spiral's bones glint in the beam, and I realize this alcove wasn't on any map. This was never meant to be found. A voice, soft, distant, whispers from the darkness beyond the spiral. "You see it now." I spin, flashlight tearing through shadow. The side tunnel stretches into pitch, but at its mouth stands a figure I know too well. Tall, gaunt, jacket plastered to his frame with rain. His face is pale, eyes glinting like broken glass. In one hand he holds a femur, in the other the Polaroid map with 7 circles, 6 filled, 1 empty. He steps forward, boots sinking in mud. I raise my gun, voice trembling. It's over. It's done. He tilts his head, studying me. Behind him, the spiral's bones seem to pulse in the beam, drawing me closer. You found the 7th, he says, voice low. But the story isn't finished. He lifts the femur and places it at the spiral's center, alongside the child's skull. The map unfurls in his other hand, and with his finger he draws an 8th circle, freehand, just beyond the county line. Then he steps back into the darkness, and the tunnel exhales. I don't fire. I stand frozen, gun trained on empty blackness. The radio crackles once more, my name on the line, but I don't answer. I stare at the spiral, at the new circle traced in mud, and I feel something break inside me. I slide out of the cruiser and let the recorder run, rainwater dripping off my hat onto the muddy ground. The air smells of wet pine and iron. The creek's low murmur in the distance like an echo from some other world. My boots sink into soft earth as I walk back toward the spiral alcove under the old mill road culvert. Lightning flashes overhead and cracks the sky like a bullet. I step into the alcove without turning on my flashlight, letting my eyes adjust to the gloom. The spiral of bones glows faintly under the intermittent moonlight, each rib and vertebra tracing a path inward to the child's skull, now joined by the slender femur I pocketed. I stand at the threshold, rain spattering my shoulders, and I breathe deep, listening. My voice is low as I hit record. July 5th, 2019, final chapter. Return to alcove. Spiral complete. 2 new offerings. Child's skull carved with 5 notches, slender femur polished smooth, placed after my departure. Pattern redefined. The thunder rumbles again, rolling down the tunnel. I step closer, barefoot now, boots abandoned by the culvert's mouth. Mud oozes between my toes. I crouch at the spiral's edge, fingertips grazing each bone in a clockwise manner, as if reading Braille. The carvings on the child's skull catch my eye. A tally of nights or victims or years. I count once more, 5 notches. A branch snaps behind me. I don't need to turn. His presence fills the space. I slip my hand into my coat pocket, closing around the slender femur. I lift it out, holding it aloft like a pen. I trace an 8th notch on the skull's forehead with its smooth curve. The sound, bone on bone, is soft but absolute. He steps from the shadows, tall, still as death, coat soaked through, eyes alight with that same hollow pride. He kneels beside me, placing a gloved hand atop mine. I feel his wrist, thin, bone-deep pulse, and I know he's alive because of it. He whispers, "Now you know the truth." His voice is a rasp of stones grinding. I exhale, tension easing. My legs shake as I stand, skull and femur in hand. I press the skull to my chest, feeling its weight like a promise. I reach for my gun. The metal feels cold and distant. He rises, slipping the recorder from my pocket. He holds it up and smiles. "Record this." His finger hovers over the record button. I barely manage to step back before he clicks it. My own breath, my own heartbeat filling the tunnel. He drops the recorder and steps into the spiral, arranging the bones one last time into a perfect circle around the child's skull. I watch, heart clenched. A flash of lightning reveals his face in full, eyes reflecting the pale bone, skin pulled tight over cheekbones, lips parted in a silent grin. Then he turns, backs into the darkness, and vanishes with a soft rustle of wet leaves. The recorder lies blinking on the floor. I rush forward, snatching it up. Rain floods in. The storm surges through the culvert. The spiral is complete once more. 12 ribs form a ring around the child's skull, not one bone out of place. The final notch carved above its eye socket glimmers in the lightning. I run from the culvert, knuckles white around the recorder, jeans soaked, heart pounding. I don't look back. I don't let the wind carry my footsteps. I burst into the cruiser, lock the doors, and shove the recorder beneath the dash. The engine roars to life, tires hissing through puddles. I drive without headlights, trusting the ambient light of the storm to guide me. The tunnel shrinks behind me, the spiral alcove lost to darkness. When I pull into the station, dawn's first light breaks through the clouds. I climb out, recorder in hand, and press play. The tunnel's echo, the rustle of leaves, the soft rasp of his instructions fill the cab. I step onto dry pavement, the recorder's light dancing across my face. I tuck it into my coat, evidence and confession bound in one device. I glance up. The sky is clearing, but the world feels hollow, as if shaped by absence. I walk inside, each step final. Behind me, in the alcove, the circle remains perfect, unchanged, awaiting its next witness. And I know he's still out there. I eased the cruiser onto the gravel road, headlights slicing through the midnight black like a knife. The engine's hum died as I killed it, and silence pressed in, thick, heavy, absolute. I stepped out, boots crunching on loose stones, fingers tightening around my flashlight. The beam cut a narrow swath ahead, illuminating gnarled pine trunks and the sagging roof of the old Larson barn. The call had been vague. Someone out here needed help. No description, just that uneasy feeling in the caller's voice. Heart pounding, I approached the barn door. The porch light flickered, once, twice, then went dark. I lifted my flashlight, sweeping the beam inside. Empty stalls, cobwebs, rotting hay. The air smelled damp and sour. My radio crackled to life. Static, then a single word I couldn't make out. I patted the dashboard of my cruiser earlier, and that static had disappeared, but now it returned. I tapped the mic. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Reed. I'm at Larson Barn, no sign of anyone. Over." Silence answered. The static washed away. I climbed the rickety ladder to the loft, light strobing over broken planks. Up top, flaked paint and old tools lay scattered. A single bulb dangled, swaying in the draft. No movement. My chest tightened, breath quickening. I spun toward the loft opening. A faint click. A latch behind me. I whirled. Nothing. Just shadows pooling in corners. Back outside, I heard it again. Soft, deliberate footsteps across the barn's wooden floor. I trained the flashlight on the doorway, voice low. "Pinehurst County Sheriff's Office. Are you all right?" Silence. Then the faint hum of a broken alarm somewhere deeper in the property. An insistent buzzing growing louder. Rhythm unsteady. I moved toward the sound, boots barely making a sound on the loft boards. The alarm was old, battered, hanging from the eaves. It sputtered, then died. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain the barn roof would hear it. I radioed in. "False alarm at Larson Barn. No one here. Returning to cruiser." The static returned, louder this time, then cut off altogether. I paused at my cruiser, hand on the door. The world outside felt hollow, as if I'd left reality somewhere back on Main Street. At 1:43 a.m., I got the call for Harper Jones. Roommate reported her missing after her shift at Millie's Diner. Her sedan had been found abandoned at Miller's Bridge. I flicked on the cruiser's lights and raced down Highway 8, every mile echoing under my tires. When I arrived, the sedan sat crooked on the bridge, engine cold. Door ajar. A coffee cup half full on the passenger seat, milk congealed at the edges. Frost clung to the windshield in the moonlight. No footprints around, no signs of struggle, except the open door. I stepped out, latex gloves on, and crouched beside the car. A scrap of lace lay near the brake pedal. I bagged it. Then I followed faint footprints leading into the pines. The underbrush scratched at my legs. Branches slapped the flashlight beam away, then back again. I called her name. My voice sounded wrong in this quiet. Up ahead, decaying boards of a farmhouse porch. Door splintered. Inside, overturned chairs, the neon glow of an old Coke sign flickering erratically. Its hum warbled, like a scream underwater. I moved through the kitchen, eyes stinging from stale air. On the wall, dark gouges cratered the wood. Someone had clawed at it. I heard a sob, soft, broken, from down the hallway. I drew my weapon and approached. The bedroom door creaked as I nudged it open. Harper huddled in the corner, knees against her chest, eyes huge, shimmering. Relief washed over me, followed by anger. "You okay?" I crouched. She whispered, voice trembling, "He's out there, watching." I radioed backup. One female found, shaken but alive. Suspect possibly still nearby. My words crackled through static. Leaving Harper cradled under a foil blanket in the cruiser's back seat, I followed creek beds and fallen logs toward the logging road 6 miles north. The moon was a sliver, light scarce. At the turnoff, I killed the cruiser's lights and set off on foot. The road was little more than 2 ruts through the forest. My flashlight revealed a muddy path, pines arching overhead. Then headlights, 1, 2, cut the darkness. The stolen ATV, stolen 2 nights ago, parked center road, engine still running. I crouched behind a fallen log, heart hammering. The ATV's engine ticked, cooling, no rider. I flicked on the flashlight. Tracks in the mud curved away into the trees, fresh. I followed them, every footstep echoing. The air smelled of pine resin and something acrid. Smoke? Rot? Then I saw it, earth freshly disturbed, turned up roots and clay. In the center lay a wooden carving of a pine tree, rough-hewn, edges jagged. My breath caught. I knelt, brushing away leaves. The carving was wet, dark, like stained. I pocketed it, radioing in its description. "Send a unit to pick up that evidence," I said, voice tight. Suspect leaving ritual markers. Static roared, then silence. I lowered my voice. "If you're out here, come in where I can see you." My flashlight beam pierced the brush. Nothing but swaying branches. My pulse pounded in my ears. I eased back to the road, every rustle, bird, breeze, felt predatory. I waited for backup's headlights. When they arrived, I felt my knees wobble. We secured the area, set perimeter lights, called in canine units, crime scene investigators. I cataloged the carving, sealed it in evidence. My hands trembled as I wrote notes. In the station later, I taped that carving to the bulletin board, staring at it under fluorescent lights. It sank in. This wasn't random. Someone out here had a pattern, a message. Night shift ended at dawn. I sat alone in the squad room, fluorescent hum pressing in, coffee cup half finished. I checked the file on past missing girls. Jessica Landon, Amber Reynolds. All found in remote areas, hands crossed, pine carvings left beside them. The pattern matched. My tired eyes stung as I realized how close this had come to me. I drove home as the sun crept over the mountains, fatigue pulling at my bones. At my front door, I paused, running a hand over the carving in my pocket. It felt damp still, a warning or challenge. I dropped it onto the hall table and entered. No one waiting, just empty rooms and the hum of life before dawn. In the dark, I thought I heard footsteps in the attic. I froze. Footsteps. Software. Then nothing. I flipped on the light. No one. But on the floor by my boots lay another pine tree carving, smaller than the first, edges sharp. My heart slammed. I stared at it, mind spinning. The next night I would return to the forest. I'd track this killer, find their lair. But in that moment I understood. This wasn't just a case. It was personal. And the darkness out there was watching me back. I ease into the driver's seat, adrenaline still thrumming through my veins as headlights from the backup unit fade behind me. Dawn is still hours away, and the forest around Pinnerest feels alive, every shadow holding its breath. I know sleep won't come, so I decide to head back out alone before the task force fully mobilizes. I need the woods to myself to trace the pattern in my own way, without flashing lights or radio chatter. I shift into four-wheel drive and roll onto the logging road, each bump and rut reminding me how familiar these trails are, and how dangerous they've become. My breath fogs the windshield, and I flick the defroster on low, listening to the soft hiss. The radio stays off. I don't want that static tonight. Past the logging turnoff, the pines close in, branches scraping the roof. I follow the narrow track until it opens into the clearing where I found that first carving. Moonlight outlines the disturbed earth. I kill the headlights and step out, flashlight ready. My boots sink into loose soil. I crouch, retrace my fingertips over the carving's grain. It's the same crude symbol. A pine tree silhouette, edges chipped, lines jagged, like a child's drawing carved by an unsteady hand. But the wood is seasoned pine, local, likely taken from somewhere near this very grove. I pocket it, aiming to compare grain patterns later. Something about the way the light catches its edges makes it look like it's pulsing, alive. A sudden breeze stirs through the pines and the forest exhales. My stomach knots. I scan ahead. There, a faint glimmer. My pulse spikes. I move closer, sweeping my flashlight. It's a metal tag, an old rancher's cattle tag, dangling from a low branch, scratched with letters. C1G-42. I scrub at the mud on my boot. Those numbers aren't random. That's part of a GPS coordinate system used by the County Forestry Service. I burned through that training back when I ran search and rescue. I pull up the coordinate map on my phone's GPS. It points to a site 3 miles deeper into the forest, near the edge of Clearwater County. My heart thunders. If the killer is leaving breadcrumbs, they're expecting someone like me, someone who knows to follow them. I flick the truck's lights back on and hit the gas. The road narrows into single track, trees brushing the fenders. I pass deadfall and old stumps, remembering how I used to guide school groups through these parts. Now, I'm chasing a ghost. The road twists until it spits me out at an abandoned Forest Service hut. Half collapsed, roof missing. I kill the lights again, step out, and the world turns pitch black. My flashlight's beam crosses broken pallets, empty oil drums. A single concrete pad, barely enough for a trailer, sits rotting at the edge. Then I hear laughter, faint, high-pitched. Off to my left, maybe a quarter mile away. I tense, hand on my weapon. "This is Deputy Reed. Come out with your hands visible," I call softly. Silence. Then the laughter again, so close it feels like it's right behind me. But when I spin, nothing but trees. My flashlight catches a movement, a flicker down by the creek that runs alongside the clearing. Water glints moonlit. I lower myself to the ground and crawl, gravel biting into my palms until I reach the bank. There, tied by the wrists to a low branch, is a burlap sack. It shifts. I approach, flashlight trembling. The laughter stops. I unzip the top, Inside, a pair of boots, scuffed civilian, style, not police issue. My breath hitches. I pull them out. They're wet, muddied, and inside one is a torn piece of a uniform patch, State Forestry Service. That would fit with the cattle tag clue. But why? The killer knows exactly how to confuse the trail. Forestry tag, barn alarm, diner shift. It's like they want me chasing red herrings. I stand, boots in one hand, and shine the light down the bank. Something catches my eye, glinting metal in the undergrowth. I move forward, boots thudding, until I find an old chainsaw, half buried in leaves. The blade's edge is chipped, dried with sap, and something darker. I gag. The blade is stained, the sap is mixing with old blood. My stomach churns. Instinct screams to draw back, but I push on, unholstering my flashlight and weapon. A sudden crash. Behind me, the hut's rotten wall splinters. I spin, weapon raised. A figure darts inside, slipping through debris. I call out, voice calm, "Stop! Sheriff's office! Show yourself!" Silence. My boots crunch over the boards as I enter the hut. The air is stale, reeking of damp wood and rot. Light from the flashlight picks up on writing scrawled on the inside wall in dark paint. "Welcome home." My breath catches cold. That's not spray paint, it's blood. I step back. My hand shakes. The flashlight flickers. I set my jaw and sweep the beam upward. Cobwebs. Then my gaze settles on the floor. More carvings. Tiny pine trees etched into the wood. Dozens of them, as if someone counted each night of a calendar. There had to be at least 20 of them, maybe more. Under each carving, scratched words, names, dates. Some overgrown and hard to read, but I pick out J. Landon, July 16th, A. Reynolds, May 22nd. The earliest reads M. Schaefer, 10/87. I swallow. That's Marianne Schaefer, from the Woodsman's Festival incident. 1987. The ritual began then, and it's been ongoing ever since. Silent, hidden. I dial dispatch, voice steady. "Dispatch, I need immediate backup at Forest Service Hut coordinates." The line goes dead. My phone screen fades, no signal. I throw it in my pocket. Realization crashes in. The killer has jammed the frequencies. They knew I'd try to call it in. I back out of the hut, scanning the perimeter. The darkness around me seems to pulse with intent. My flashlight catches a movement at the tree line. A flash of denim, a flash of something pale. I raise my weapon. "Stop! This is law enforcement." No reply. I take a step forward. A rustle in the underbrush. I holster the weapon to reach for my cuffs, mind racing. They're not wearing a uniform, just a loose jacket. The pale skin glows in the moonlight. I call again, "Show yourself." Suddenly, the figure bolts behind a tree, slowing to a limp, dragging one leg. It collapses against the bark. Moonlight glints on something strapped to their chest. A small wooden carving of a pine tree, like an emblem. I train my light downward, their hands bound in front, ankles tied. They slump, unconscious, or worse. I kneel and slide my cuffs free, preparing to secure them. Then, footsteps. Behind me, multiple. I freeze, every nerve electric. The sound of boots on leaf litter. A dozen yards back through the trees, I see headlights flicker. An old pickup, lights off, creeping toward me. My hand tightens on my flashlight, raising it. The beam finds a face I recognize. Deputy Mark Holloway. Relief rushes in. He staggers forward, breath ragged, hand on his side. "Reed!" he gasps. "I didn't think I'd—" His voice trails off. Eyes wide as he takes in the motionless figure in the carvings on the hut. Two more silhouettes emerge. I update him in a whisper. They've been using the Forest Service hut. Ritual site. Carvings mark each victim. They're hunting, waiting, for someone to find it. His jaw clenches. He glances at the bound figure. I found this person near Ranger Creek, covered in tears, no memory. They woke up and ran, said they heard voices. I rise, stretching muscles stiff with fatigue. Dawn is creeping, pale light slanted through the pines. We secure the scene, bind the injured person onto a makeshift trolley. The carvings get photographed. Every detail, dates, names, symbols. We collect the chainsaw, the cattle tag, the burlap sack. Each piece is another chapter in a decades-long nightmare. As we load evidence into the trucks, I study Holloway. He's lost weight, eyes hollow, he's seen too much. I place a hand on his shoulder. We'll get him, I say, meaning the killer. But meaning more, we'll survive this. We drive out together, the carving from the hut laying on the seat between us. It's larger than the first one. A master carving nearly a foot tall. Its edges are smooth. Someone spent hours perfecting it. In the shifting early morning glow, the silhouette seems to writhe on its own. I press it flat. Resolve hardening. Tomorrow, I go back in full force. I'll bring the task force, K9 units, drones, everything. No more lone runs. But when I glance in the rearview mirror, between the carvings and scavenged evidence, I see another figure in the back of Holloway's truck. The bound person, head tilted, eyes fluttering open. And in their hand, another pine carving. Smaller, freshly cut, edges raw, and they're holding it out toward me. My blood runs cold. I swallow bile as the dawn breaks fully. This is no killer chasing victims. They want me to chase them now, and they know I will. I climb back into the cruiser, heart hammering, and drive slowly toward the point where Holloway and I found the bound figure. Fog swirls low among the tree trunks, swirling like restless spirits. My headlights carve twin beams through the mist. I'm alone now. Holloway rode back with the injured person to the station. I told him to secure evidence and wait for the task force. I told myself I'd circle back, confirm the perimeter, then head home. Catch a few hours sleep before the full investigation tomorrow. But something pulls me deeper. I turn onto the narrow single-track road where we first discovered the carvings. The wheel tracks are fresh. Tire marks gouged into the soft mud. I follow them past the collapsed service hut. Flashers off. Engine on idle. My breath clouds the windshield. I kill the headlights and coast forward, using only the lantern clipped to my belt. The tunnel of pines is silent. The only sound my own boots on the gravel and the thump of my heart. At the clearing's center, I crouch beside the first ritual site. A shallow pit ringed with stones. The earth has already begun to refill itself. Rain erasing footprints, wind scattering needles. I kneel and brush aside leaves. Below, at the bottom of the pit, lies another carving. Smaller, more delicate than the masterpiece we retrieved. This one, carved quickly, edges rough. I reach for it. The wood is slick with moisture. As I lift it, I notice a thin red line across its middle. Fresh sap mixed with something darker. I breathe the shallow, tension coiling in my chest. Something shifts in the shadows. I spin, drawing my weapon, lantern raised. The beam illuminates a figure 10 yards away. Tall, angular, head tilted. No jacket, just a heavy shirt and worn jeans. The face is obscured by darkness, but I recognize the gait, a limp. My mind flashes to the wounded person in Holloway's truck. Same injury, same tags. The figure takes a step forward, then halts. Hands hang by its sides. One hand flips something, another carving, identical shape, slightly larger than the one in my hand. I steady my breathing. Stay where you are. My voice echoes, sharp in the stillness. No reply, just that figure, unmoving, clutching the carving like a talisman. My finger tightens on the trigger, but I hesitate. This person might be a victim, frightened, confused. If you need help, call out. My voice cracks. Lantern light flickers across the figure's chest, a badge clipped to its shirt. No law enforcement insignia I recognize, just the faded outline of a pine tree. The figure tilts its head and steps forward. I blink, then recognize the face beneath a mop of dark hair and gaunt features. It's Deputy Sarah Lawson, our newest hire, missing since last week. The last we heard, she'd gone on a routine welfare check near Whispering Pines Road, never returned. We searched, found no trace until now. My pulse throbs. She takes another slow step, lips parting. No sound, only that empty gaze. I lower my weapon, disbelief flooding me. Sarah. The name breaks across my throat. She lifts the carving higher, presses it to her chest. Her eyes glimmer in the lantern's beam. Then she turns and walks backward into the trees, never breaking eye contact. Sarah, I call, dropping to one knee. She pauses at the tree line, lifts her free hand, palm up, revealing a ring of small carvings carved into her wrist. Pine trees, one for each of the first 6 victims. Underneath, a date etched, June 5th. Today's date. My blood runs cold. I scramble to my feet. Sarah. I press forward, but the underbrush tangles at my boots. I lunge, outstretching my hand in the lantern's glow. She steps back, then she turns and vanishes into the fog, the carving clutched to her chest. Silence crashes around me. I stand, lantern bobbing, chest heaving. The forest seems to close in, breath heavy and expectant. I drop to one knee again, mind racing. A battered radio crackles in my pocket, Holloway's voice, clipping in. Reed, you there? Sarah Lawson just called in on my radio, said she's at the barn and needs your help. I glance over my shoulder at the dense tree line, then back to the pit. 6 carvings, 6 dates. 1 missing, the 7th for Sarah. And Sarah herself, somehow transformed from deputy to ritual vessel. I jam the radio to my mouth. Mark, that can't be right. The barn? Static, then his voice again. I swear. She said, please hurry. My mind fractures between instinct and protocol. The barn, the Larson barn, the same one, I checked hours ago. I sprint back to the cruiser, lantern swinging, boots pounding. I skid around the driver's side, toss the lantern inside and fire up the engine. Headlights blaze as I hammer the accelerator, tires digging into mud, spraying gravel behind me. Fog and pines blur into one long tunnel as I race north, radio screaming beneath my grip. At the barn, I slam the cruiser into park and leap out. The porch light is burning steady, a solid glow I never saw before. The barn door stands wide open, yawning like a scream. My boots murmur over the threshold. Inside, the stale air thickens. My flashlight beam darts across empty stalls. Then, down the loft ladder, I see her. Sarah Lawson kneels at the center aisle, back turned. 7 carvings arranged at her feet, forming a perfect circle, each one identical except the last. Hers. She traces her fingers along the wood, whispering under her breath. A soft chant, words I can't make out. The broken alarm in the rafters suddenly shrieks to life, a discordant wail that rattles my bones. Sarah doesn't flinch. I clear my throat. Deputy Lawson. My voice echoes. She doesn't turn. The chant rises, steady, hypnotic. I step closer. The smell of pine resin and blood is overpowering. As I approach, I see that her uniform is stained. Mud, sweat, dark crimson splotches. She presses her carving to the barn's center beam and it sticks, embedded, as if fused. Wood cracks around it. Sarah! I reach to grab her shoulder. She whirls, Eyes glowing in the lantern's beam, pupils dilated to black. Her mouth curves into a soft smile. "Welcome home, Sheriff," she whispers, voice hollow yet knowing. The carvings at her feet begin to burn, first smoldering, then roaring with blue flame that licks the rafters. The barn shudders as if alive. I stumble back, heart thunderous. "Sarah, stop this!" My voice breaks. Lightning splits the sky outside, illuminating her silhouette against the wall of flames. She raises her arms, welcoming the fire. "It's time," she says, head tilted. Smoke curls, pine scent overpowering. I feel the heat on my face, heat that shouldn't be possible from those small flames. Then the barn door slams shut behind me. Wood groans. I'm trapped. My flashlight flickers. The fire casts dancing shadows. Shadows I recognize, the shapes of the victims, ever silent, gathering around Sarah's circle. Their carved pine symbols glow on their chests. Their mouths move in unison. "Welcome home." My throat closes. I press my back to the wall, lungs burning. The circle tightens. I drop to one knee, resolve fracturing under the heat and chanting. Sarah's head tilts back, eyes lifted as flames rise. The carvings melt into the wood, fusing their shape into the barn itself. I raise my voice above the roar. "Sarah, I'm taking you out. This ends now." My deputy, my friend, smiles wider. The voices intensify. The barn shudders one last time. Then, in the flicker of flame, I realize there will be no rescue. There will be no victory. Only this ritual, this cycle, this dark homecoming beneath the silent pines. And as the walls ignite, I finally understand the truth the killer sought to reveal. Painterist is not safe. The woods are not indifferent. They are hungry, waiting for their tribute. And tonight the sheriff's deputy falls silent, consumed by history's fire, and the forest claims another soul. I restart the engine and point the cruiser deeper into the forest, tires sending up a fine spray of mud and pine needles. The fog has thickened, curling around the pines like restless spirits still searching for a way out. Every muscle in my body aches with fatigue, but I force myself to stay focused. Too much has happened for me to pause now. The logging road narrows until it becomes little more than a muddy track, squeezing me in on both sides with low-hanging branches. Each scrape against the roof sounds like a warning. I kill the headlights again and switch to the infrared camera mounted on the front bumper. The screen bathes the interior in an eerie green light, revealing nothing more than the outlines of trees stretching endlessly ahead. I slip out of the cruiser at a bend where the map on my phone shows an old fire tower. Its steel legs stand battered and rusted, an abandoned sentinel overlooking the forest. I secure my lantern to my belt, draw my weapon, and cross the road toward the tower. The ground here is littered with old logging tags and rusted nails. My flashlight beam catches an overturned picnic table half buried in needles and moss. On its surface, someone has painted a crude pine tree symbol in dark red, almost black. The same silhouette I've traced through graves, barns, and service huts. But here, it's a warning, bolder than anything I have found. I kneel and photograph it, then examine the ground beneath the table. The earth is churned, as if something heavy was dragged across it. My gloved hand brushes against. Metal, handcuffs open, lying on the ground. I pick them up, feeling their cold weight. They're standard issue, but the serial number has been filed off. Not evidence at first glance, just tools of capture. A noise behind me, distant but unmistakable. A low whistle, long and wavering, like the wind but too deliberate. My heart thunders. I swing my flashlight toward the tower stairs. They ascend into blackness, each step bent and warped. I mount the first step, metal groaning beneath my weight. I pause on the third landing to listen. The forest around me is silent, air still. The whistle sounds again, higher this time, somewhere in the canopy. I ascend unsteadily, each rung echoing in my ears. At the top platform, the wind picks up, whipping at my jacket. 5 feet below, the forest floor seems impossibly far away. A carved wooden pine tree sits on the railing, its edges smooth from weather. I reach for it, gloved fingers tracing the grain. The camera in my pocket chirps, Holloway calling again. I key the mic. "Mark, I'm at the old fire tower. Found unmarked handcuffs and a carving. What's your status?" Static crackles. Then his voice comes through clear. "Reed, we got a signal on Sarah's phone. Pinged near the river bend. I'm heading there now." I glance down at the river's ribbon of silver winding through the trees. Water churns over rocks far below. The whistle sounds again. Closer. Suddenly, the platform shudders. I stumble, catching the railing. From the undergrowth, a shape emerges, tall, lean, clad in dark clothing that blends with the night. Hands bound at the wrists, like the first victim we found, but feet bare. The lantern on my belt bobs wildly, throwing shifting shadows. I raise my weapon. "Don't move." My voice sounds ragged. The figure stops, tilts its head. The moonlight catches its face. Deputy Harper Jones, alive but changed. Her eyes are hollow. Her uniform is torn, stained. She lifts her bound hands, and I see fresh cuts where the rope bit into her wrists. In her palms, she clasps another small carving. She lifts it, eyes fixed on me, then bends and places it on the railing, the pine tree symbol facing the forest. I lower the weapon slightly, uneasy. "Harper, it's okay, I'm here to help." Her lips part, and the whistle flows from her mouth, long and mournful. Her head tilts back, eyes locked on the treetops. Then she takes a step back, teetering on the edge of the platform. My breath hitches. "Harper, no!" But she flicks her wrist, sending the carving sliding toward me. It topples over the edge, vanishing into the darkness below with a sharp clatter. She exhales, the whistle cutting off. For a moment, her face softens, as if relief washes over her. Then her head snaps back upright and she turns away. I holster my weapon and approach, heart pounding. "Harper, talk to me." My voice wavers between command and plea. She doesn't respond. I reach for her elbow, but she darts past me, descending the ladder in 2 quick strides. I follow, careful to hold on to the railing. At the base, she stops and stares at the handcuffs in my hand. Then she reaches out as if drawn to them. Before I can react, she snatches the cuffs, then turns and runs, north toward the river's bend. My mind clicks into gear. She's leading me to the next site. I yell, "Harper, come back." She doesn't look, disappearing into the trees. I sprint after her, lantern in one hand, cuffs in the other. The underbrush claw at my legs, branches whip my face. I call her name over and over. The canopy above blocks moonlight, plunging me into smothering dark. Then I hear her, slower now, limping. Voices rising again, chanting low in the trees. I follow the sound downhill toward the river's roar. As I crest a ridge, the sound stops. In the river's moonlit pool, I see the reflections of 3 pine tree carvings floating, bobbing on the current like drifting leaves. I drop to my knees, lunging forward, but a hand on my shoulder freezes me. I whirl around. The silhouette of a tall man steps into view, the same figure I glimpsed cleaning the cabin. It's Thomas Garrett. His face is calm, mask-like, framed by shadows. He's holding the master carving from the hut, the large pine silhouette. He smiles, slow and deliberate. "Deputy Reed," he says, voice soft as smoke. "You've done well to follow the breadcrumbs." His other hand holds a small dive knife, blade glinting in the moonlight. But this is where your path ends. Before I can raise my weapon, he flicks the knife handle with a practiced twist, and two figures emerge behind him. Harper and Sarah, both bound and silent. Harper's eyes are downcast. Sarah's gaze flickers from me to Garrett with something like apology. I back away, heart hammering. The chanting starts again, soft, rhythmic, coming from deeper in the woods. Garrett steps forward, malice tempered by ceremony. "You see," he says, eyes glinting. "The forest demands its tribute. Now it will have it from you." My voice catches as I reach for the radio. Nothing. Dead. He chuckles, low and bitter, and raises the master carving high. "Welcome to the final sacrifice, Sheriff." His lips curve. "Will you accept your place beneath the pines?" I stand frozen, weapon trembling in my hand, as the moon dips behind a cloud and darkness washes over us all, leaving only the echo of our breaths, the forest's hungry hunger, and the cold promise of what comes next. I slam the cruiser into drive and tear off down the logging road, heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped animal. Garrett's voice echoes in my ears. "Will you accept your place beneath the pines?" I don't know how I'm going to save Sarah and Harper, but I know I have to try. The headlights carve arc-shaped beams through the fog, illuminating twisted roots and broken stumps. Gravel flies behind me, rattling the undercarriage. My breath comes in ragged gasps, and I force my shaking hands to stay steady on the wheel. I know the River Bend site is just a mile ahead, where Garrett confessed he'd staged Amber Reynolds' rescue so he could perfect the ritual. I hit a pothole and grit grinds beneath my tires. The forest flanks me on both sides, silent witnesses. The radio is dead. My phone lies smashed under the seat from earlier. No backup. Just me and Garrett's trap stretching ahead in the dark. The road narrows until I'm brushing branches, each one scraping the paint. I kill the headlights in a blind rush, trusting night vision only. The world turns a sickly green on the infrared screen. I swear I see movement at the edge of the frame. Harper's outline? But before I can react, a low log jumps into view and I crunch hard, cruiser bucking. I skid to a stop in a cloud of dust and needles. Heart in my throat. I kill the engine, switch the infrared off, and step out. The air is cold, damp, heavy with the scent of pine and decay. I crouch behind the wheel, listening. No running water, no chanting. Nothing but my own ragged breathing and the pounding in my ears. I flip on my flashlight and scan. Ahead, the tree line parts at the river's bend. Moonlight glints off water rushing over rocks, a silver ribbon through the darkness. And on a big flat boulder at the bank, illuminated by moonlight, I see them. The two women, their arms bound to stakes driven into the stone, wrists red and raw, their heads tilt, bodies bowed, eyes closed. Sarah and Harper. I swallow bile, my flashlight's beam shaking as I raise it. "Sarah! Harper!" I shout. Their eyelids flutter, but they don't respond. Something, fear, fury, ignites in my chest. I break into a run, crashing through underbrush, boots sinking in mud. All my training kicks in. I need to get them loose before Garrett appears. I reach the edge of the clearing. The river roars at my feet, but the boulder is dry at its crest, just wide enough for the ritual circle. I crouch beside Harper. Her face is pale, sweat beating at her hairline. "Harper, it's me, Deputy Reed. I'm here. I'm going to get you out." She blinks, lips parting, but no sound comes. I tug at the rope binding her wrists. It's thick, soaked through. The knot is intricate, maliciously twisted. I curse under my breath and reach for my pocket knife. Before I can pull it free, the sound of footsteps halts me. Soft, deliberate. Dozens of them stepping out from behind the trees. I snap my flashlight toward the shadows. Garrett emerges first, slow and calm. He's dressed in the same dark clothes, face implacable. Behind him, armed with chainsaws, handcuffs, axes, stand 6 men. The ones who covered up Marianne Schaefer's disappearance 31 years ago. Eleonora's trembling testimony had named them: town council members, volunteer firefighters, local ranchers. Now they stand in a half circle, lanterns catching their grim faces. They glance at each other with satisfaction, as if watching prey step into a feeder. The river's thunder masks their words, but I catch Garrett's. "Welcome back, Deputy. You climbed every ladder, followed every clue. Tonight, you join them." My jaw clenches. "Get away from them, Garrett. Let them go." My voice is low, desperate. I edge between him and the women, knife in hand. Garrett smiles at me, a slow, gracious tilt of his head. "You could have stopped this when you found the hut. Could have walked away, but no, you had to prove yourself. Now, the final act." He raises a hand. One of the old men steps forward, axe blade glinting. I spring at him, swinging my knife toward his arm. I catch his sleeve, slice through cloth, flesh, and he howls, staggering back. The others lurch at me with ugly grins. I kick one in the shin, sending him reeling. Another swings a chainsaw, but I duck and crash my shoulder into his gut, knocking him off balance. The fight is chaotic. Branches snapping, lanterns swinging, the river pounding below. I shout for Harper and Sarah to stay down, then dive toward the block where Sarah is bound. I yank the knife free from the old man's arm and sprint, adrenaline blasting through me. I reach Sarah and begin sawing at the ropes. They're thick, soaked. The blade binds in damp fibers. Behind me, I hear Garrett's voice. "Your mentor would be proud." My heart cracks. He means Eleonora's account, the hidden boy from 30 years ago. Sheriff Palmer, my predecessor who buried Marianne. My mentor, my betrayal. I hack hard at Sarah's bonds. A lantern drops. Its glow tumbles across the river. One of the men charges me. I roll to the side, blade raised. He snarls and tackles me. We hit the stone, tumbling into the shallows. Cold water floods my uniform. I kick him off and scramble up, shaking. Sarah's ropes are half cut. Blood soaks the fibers. I yank hard. Rope snaps, and she collapses forward. I catch her, cradling her as she keels over. Harper stumbles as I dash to her. She's crying silently, eyes wild. I free her quickly, tears tracking through the dirt on her cheeks. They both cling to me, trembling. We need to go, now. I half carry Sarah, half drag Harper toward the cruiser. But Garrett steps forward, blocking the path. His face is angry now, eyes glinting like a beast injured. "You think you can just walk away." He brandishes the master carving, larger than a man's hand, carved from aged pine. "This ritual is bigger than you or me. It binds us all. Your ancestors were part of it. Everyone up here, everyone who protected Pinarist." I stare at him, every muscle screaming. "You're wrong. Pinarist deserves truth." I step toward him, Sarah and Harper pressing against my sides. The old men spread out behind Garrett, axes and chainsaws raised. The river's roar fills my ears. My mind clears. There's only one way out. I draw my service pistol and aim at Garrett's chest. He doesn't flinch. The world narrows to flash and trigger. I squeeze, but instead of a shot, nothing happens. No bang, no recoil. My finger tenses. I look down. The cylinder is empty. I'd never checked. Panic and rage collide in my chest. I throw the pistol aside and lunge for the master carving in Garrett's hand. He holds it aloft, defiant. Our hands clash over it, wood splintering. He's strong, I'm exhausted. We struggle, arms locked. The old men advance. Sarah screams, Harper crumbles, and I feel a dreadful certainty. We will not leave this place together. Then a sudden boom, the crack of rifle fire, echoes through the trees. Lanterns flip, men stagger and drop their tools. Garrett freezes, eyes blazing. I glance toward the tree line. A police cruiser spills high beams into the night. Officers pouring out, rifles raised. Holloway's voice rings out, "Drop your weapons. This is the sheriff's office." The old men glance anxiously at each other and begin to scatter back into the forest. Garrett jerks free and hurls the master carving at me. It strikes my shoulder, pain like fire exploding. I catch it, staggering. He turns and bolts into the darkness. I drop to one knee, hand shaking, carving heavy in my grip. Sarah and Harper stumble toward me, eyes wide. Holloway rushes forward. "Reed! Are you okay? We got the task force behind us. Backup's here." He helps me to my feet, supports Sarah and Harper between us. I look at the clearing. 6 downed lanterns, scattered weapons, the swirling river. The carvings we collected lie half submerged on the boulder. I swallow, voice raw. He's gone, but so is our innocence. The officers fan out, flashlights sweeping the trees. Dead silence answers. The forest stands still as if waiting. I steady Sarah and Harper in the cruiser. Their gazes flick to the master carving in my arms, damp with my blood. I tuck it into the evidence bag, sealing it shut. Then I climb into the driver's seat, lights blazing. Holloway takes the wheel. Surgeons, forensics, uniformed officers flood in behind us, securing the scene. As we drive out, Aurora's pale light brushes the treetops. Sarah leans against the window, eyes closed. Harper leans against her, tears sleeping on her lashes. I cradle the evidence bag on my lap, feeling its weight. Garrett's ritual is interrupted for now, but the master carving's raw grain still pulses in my hands. In the rearview mirror, the forest recedes, pines tall and silent, unblinking. I know Garrett will reassemble his followers, and the ritual will continue. 7 carvings, 7 lives. 1 remains, his own, and 1 more will be chosen. Ahead, the station lights glow. I set the bag on the console, resolve settling like steel. They called me sheriff, despite my rank, because this will define Pinerist's future. I check my phone, no signal. I override the cruiser's lock and step out, evidence bag in hand. The station door is open, lights bright, officers milling. I clear my throat. "Lock it all down," I say, voice steady. "No one leaves until Garrett is found." Behind me, Harper and Sarah lean on Holloway for support. I meet their eyes. They survived. A nightmare. But the forest's night is far from over. I close the station door and begin the long work of justice, knowing that at sunrise, the woods will still be watching, and the ritual will seek its 7th name. I ease the cruiser onto the forest road again, dawn's glow still hours off, and I replay last night's chaos in my mind. Garrett's trap, the ritualists, Sarah and Harper bound at the river. Backup arrived just in time, but the killer slipped away. Now the forest has grown still, but I know that stillness is worse than any storm. I switch off the headlights and follow the narrow track by moonlight until I reach the service hut clearing. The master carving I recovered sits in an evidence bag on the passenger seat, taped and tagged. I open the glove box and pull out the case file on Mary Ann Schaefer, the first victim from 1987, and compare the carved dates I found. 6 names: Schaefer, Landon, Reynolds, Jones, Lawson, and 1 more I haven't yet identified. Only 1 remains, the killer himself, Thomas Garrett. My breath clouds the windshield as I exhale. I kill the engine and step onto the misty ground. The quiet is suffocating. I tuck the file under one arm, lantern in the other, and approach the hut. The door swings open on rusted hinges, as if waiting. Inside, splintered floorboards. The spot where the carvings were, now cleared. The walls are bare, but the air still hums with memory. I move to the back wall and press my headlamp against it. Faint gouges remain where the carvings were scraped off. I kneel and shine my light into twisted grains of wood, tiny bark fragments embedded deep. I bag a sample. This wood will trace back to Garrett's property, to the massive old-growth pine where the graves were found. I step outside and mark my path back to the cruiser. The fog has lifted slightly, revealing a set of fresh footprints leading toward the logging road. They are large, boot prints with a jagged tread pattern. I photograph them, then follow them as far as I dare alone. They veer off into thick timber, toward a slope I know leads to the abandoned Clear Creek mine shaft. Garrett once admitted to using that old shaft as a dumping ground for scrap, and bodies can go missing in a place like that. I drop to one knee at the mine's mouth, lantern tracing jagged rock walls. The tunnel yawns like a toothless maw. I radio in, "Dispatch, I'm at Clear Creek Mine. Strong evidence someone's been here. Requesting hazardous entry team ASAP. No answer, dead zone." I pocket the radio and draw my flashlight. Step by step, I enter the shaft, low ceiling forcing me to crouch. The beam cuts through darkness, illuminating wooden supports rotting with age. My boots echo on stone. A gust of stale air pushes past me, carrying whispers of ventilation ducts long sealed. I slow. The beam flickers across a metal chain hanging from the ceiling, rusted links still strong enough to hold weight. Beneath it, a bloodstain spattered across the rock face. My stomach twists. I kneel and bag a swatch of the stain, Garrett's handiwork, or the ritualist's. Ahead, the shaft branches. Left leads uphill, right goes deeper toward the river valley. The footprints I saw veered right. I choose right. The passage narrows until I'm scraping shoulders on the walls. Then I see it. A faint glow at the end. Lantern light swinging softly. My heart jolts. Someone's there. I crouch low, draw my weapon and creep forward. I round a bend and halt. Sarah Lawson stands beside a makeshift altar of rocks and bones. Animal bones, old and bleached, mixed with pine needles. She's alone, clutching the master carving to her chest. Her uniform is torn, her face streaked with dirt and tears, but her eyes hold steel resolve. A second lantern hangs from a chain overhead. The beam swings across her silhouette. "Sarah," I whisper, voice trembling. She turns slowly, lips parting. "Sheriff." Her voice is soft, distant, as if from another world. "You came." I lower my weapon. Relief washes through me. I step forward, but a noise behind me, a chain dragging, makes me spin. Emerging from a side tunnel is Harper Jones, aided by one of the original ritualists, an older man, face-lined and hate-filled. They carry an unconscious figure in coveralls. I recognize the county coroner, missing since the Jackson farm scene. His hands lie bound over his chest, carving-scarred wrists. The ritualist sets the coroner down before Sarah. She kneels, placing the master carving atop the coroner's chest. The bone altar behind her seems to pulse. I raise my voice, "Move back! Now!" No one moves. I swallow and step forward until I'm standing beside Sarah. "This stops tonight." My voice echoes in the shaft. Sarah's eyes flick to mine. "Do you understand?" she asks. Pain and purpose mingle on her face. He's preparing the final dedication. One more life, then the ritual is complete. I feel steam of breath in the cold air. One life? She nods. Yours. My blood runs cold. I grasp at the altar's lantern and kick it free. Light swings wildly, lantern glass cracking. The ritualist lunges for me. I sidestep and punch him. He howls, dropping to the ground. Harper scrambles toward the coroner, but the older man grabs her arm. She twists free and charges at the ritualist. They tumble in the lamplit glow. I seize the carving from Sarah's hands. It's heavy, like holding the weight of every death. I raise it over my head. But before I can bring it down, another figure steps from the darkness. Thomas Garrett, framed by the tunnel's rear arch. He's armed with his dive knife, eyes blazing with triumph. He strides forward. "Deputy Reed," he says, voice low and wild. "You can't destroy it. The ritual binds us all. You belong." The lamplight flickers across his features, aged but unrepentant. He lunges. I whirl, carving raised in defense. Our blades cross, wood against steel. Sparks fly where steel scrapes wood, and the carving cracks under the pressure. The tunnel trembles. Loose rock rains from the ceiling. Sarah and Harper rise, eyes wide as I and Garrett struggle. The coroner moans, stirring. I spin, driving the carving tip first into the ground between us, and into Holt, the old ritualist, who had lunged. He screams, staggering back into Garrett's path. Garrett slips on spilled bones, stumbles forward, and slashes me across the forearm. Pain blooms, bright and hot. I grit my teeth and kick him in the ribs. He staggers, gasping. The tunnel shakes. A groan builds as timber supports crack. I glance up. Ceiling beams splinter, groaning ominously. "Get out!" I roar to Sarah and Harper. They help the coroner to his feet. Garrett rights himself and charges again. I stumble backward, carving, smashing into rock. Another beam falls, dust choking the shaft. I yank Sarah and Harper toward the entrance, muscles burning. The coroner drags the older ritualist behind him, limp. The shaft shakes again, rock falls raining around us. Light bleeds in from outside as the huge mine entrance begins to collapse. I throw one last glance at Garrett. He's pinned beneath a falling beam, face twisted in anger, as the opening seals him in darkness. We burst into the night air, coughing, covered in dust. The coroner collapses at the mine's mouth, delirious. Sarah and Harper cling to me, fear and relief mingling on their faces. I look back as the entrance caves, sealing the shaft and Garrett inside. The forest settles quiet once more. The master carving lies broken in the rubble. I hold up my lantern. Its light trembles on the dust. Sarah leans into me. Harper wraps an arm around my waist. I feel their weight, their trust. The ritual may have claimed 6 lives, but tonight's fight ended 1 more. Behind us, officers surge through the woods, radios crackling. I lower the lantern and crush the last fragments of the master carving under my boot. The pieces splinter and scatter across the fallen rocks. The forest floor drinks them in. I look at the rising sun's pale glow through the pines. The woods fall silent again, but now they feel smaller, scarred, wounded. I help the coroner to his feet and signal for the medics. Sarah stands, hands shaking, and I slip my arm around her shoulders. Harper offers a weak smile. We walk back to the clearing where the cruisers wait. The ritual cycle is broken. No 7th sacrifice. But the forest's secret has been buried with Garrett and the master carving. The pines still watch, but their hunger is sated, for now. I help Sarah and Harper into the back of the cruiser, seals of relief and exhaustion heavy in their faces. The forest around us begins to stir as dawn finally breaks, pale light filtering through pines that stand like silent sentinels. I close the doors and turn toward the rubble-strewn entrance of the Clear Creek shaft, where the fallen timbers lie heaped in a broken grave for Garrett. The master carving, shattered and buried, lies beneath the debris, its fragmented silhouette forever lost in the shaft's collapse. I slide into the driver's seat, eyes still on the dust-choked mouth of the mine. "Hold tight," I tell Sarah, voice quiet. She nods, head lolling against the seat. Harper presses a cold hand to her side, bruised but alive. I start the engine, headlights sweeping the clearing. Deputies and forensic techs fan out, marking evidence, shouting into radios. It feels surreal, like waking from a nightmare. As I pull away, I catch movement at the fringe of the trees. An old rancher's cattle tag, C1 G42, tied to a low branch by a length of frayed rope. I slow and roll down the window. The tag swings in the morning breeze, sun glinting off its chipped paint. I lean out, heart tightening, and reach for it. My gloved hand brushes the rope. I tug gently. The tag is looped loosely, a silent invitation. I study it, the same tag I found months ago at the fire tower. My knuckles whiten as I lift it from the branch. In the windshield's reflection, I see Sarah stirring in the rear view. She watches me, eyes hooded but alert. I slip the tag into my coat pocket and give her a small nod. She half smiles, a grim, grateful curve. I drive back down the logging road, every bump and rut a reminder of what we survived. The police station's lights come into view, bright and welcoming. Deputies wave us in, medics step forward to take Sarah and Harper. I help them out, steadying each with a grip on their arms. They're safe, physically, but the forest's shadows cling in their eyes. I step aside and watch them enter the station, support teams behind them. Then I turn back to the cruiser, open the glove box, and remove the evidence bag containing the fractured pieces of the master carving. I unzip it and spread the largest shard on the hood. Light catches the grain, revealing the faintest hint of the pine silhouette, as if it's trying to reassemble itself. I press gently on the wood. Split lines fracture further. This carving was meant to bind ritual and killer together. But when I look down, I see the cattle tag in my pocket, the latch looped through one of the splintered edges. Suddenly, the tag's rope catches on the edge of the shard, pulling it upright. The carving fragment tilts as though alive and slips from the hood beneath the axle. I watch it roll back into the shadows, lost beneath a flush of gravel. My breath catches. Behind me, the station doors burst open. Holloway steps out, face lined with exhaustion. "Reed, where you going?" he calls. I glance back at the cruiser's dark undercarriage, then up at the tree line, where a single pine, gnarled, ancient, leans close to the road as if listening. I pull the tag from my pocket and hold it out, tracing the faint letters burned into its metal. The morning breeze tugs at my coat. Holloway is halfway down the walkway when I call his name. He stops and turns. I slip the tag into his hand. "Keep this close," I say. "We aren't done yet." He frowns, glancing at the tag before pocketing it. I give him a curt nod and walk back toward the forest's edge. My boots crunch on gravel as I approach that lone pine. At its base lies another carving, freshly gouged pine silhouette pressed into the dirt, edges sharp as a wound. The soil around it is undisturbed except for one set of boot prints leading into the trees, but none leading back. The carving's grain catches the dawn light, seeming to pulse once, faintly, before fading. I stand there, weight of everything on my shoulders. 6 victims, 2 survivors, ritualists brought low, and 1 killer entombed. But here, at the forest's lip, I feel the hunger of those silent pines. They wait for the final offering. And though Garrett is gone, the ritual's echo remains, carving itself into the soil, into each of us. I bend and press my thumb into the dirt next to that new silhouette, leaving my own imprint. My heart pounds as I rise, push through the undergrowth, and step onto the logging road again, heading toward the station. Behind me, the forest reclaims its secret, the carving buried once more. But in my pocket, the cattle tag feels heavy, a reminder that the past is never truly dead. As I reach the station steps, I know I carry the echo of those wooden pines, and the promise that one day the final name will be claimed. Until then, Pinerest sleeps uneasily, watched by silent witnesses in the dark. And I, Sheriff Mason Reed, will be ready when they call again.